but we're gonna do squats this way. You put the bar on the back, and you squat fucking down, feet flat, like you're shitting over a hole, like this. You keep your back straight up and down, 20 fucking reps with the bar. And then I need somebody here just doing military press. Push up and down. You got 2 sets of dumbbells here. You just keep going. Devin, get on the prowler. 20 reps on the prowler. If you're standing around, fucking get on it. You just got off the prowler, you get on the sled. Let's go. Yeah. Fuck that, you can't. 52 fucking years I've been on this fucking planet. Fuck! 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 You know what they're gonna tell you when you want to go to the fucking big stadiums? 100,000 people! I fucking can't! Fuck that! Don't waste my fucking time!
Welcome, everybody, to Juice Pro Wrestling episode 22. With me today is the returning Butch Man Lee. How you doing today, Butch Man Lee?
What it do?
And a very special guest from the Hey My Man podcast, Dave Karsky, right? Did I say it
Yes,
right?
that's it. Yeah, absolutely.
I'd hate to be Abdullah the butchering of your name.
You did not. You did well.
Sweet. So how you doing today, Dave?
Very good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime, man. Anytime.
I've been listening to your podcast and cutting up pieces of your audio to, as you know, make a soundboard for me, actually. I know I was telling you outside, you were like, oh, it was really cool you did that for me. I was like, no, I'm going to actually use it on my podcast.
Yeah. Hey, it works.
Are you gonna make sex to me?
You going to do sex to me?
Best soundbite ever.
It goes both ways.
Well, when my podcast is in a Lola, we're not podcasting, I had to do something creative. And when I started listening to your podcast, I was like, man, there's so many perfect drops. So without even asking you, I just surprised you with it.
Yeah. I really appreciate it. And for those of you that are like, what the fuck, where can we check this out at? I actually, if you go to jpdub.com and check in the links and the info in the bio, there's links to that soundboard on there. Also at JPDub Podcast on Twitter, which you can follow us at. There is a link to that too. It's actually a pinned tweet, so it's at the very top.
Nice.
And what's the name of that podcast again?
Juice Pro Wrestling Podcast. That's right. I don't know where it's going with it. But anyways, we got a good show for you guys today. Butch Man Lee just attended Wizard World in Chicago over the weekend, and we got a lot to discuss about that.
Yeah, it started off, originally I was just going to go to Wizard World, and then I saw the morning of that Pro Wrestling Tees was going to have X-Pac. Well, I knew that, but then they announced that first 100 people in line, free autographs and photos. But anyway, so I decided my sister lives 1.6 miles from there, so I'll hit there. Then go
Did you
to my
hear how
sister's.
exact and precise he was?
Well, you'll
have
find
ways.
out why. Okay, we get there. Takes forever to find somewhere to park. I had to park in like some creepy alley that says like, don't turn around here.
Welcome to Chicago.
Yeah. So anyways, we get in line, talking to a few people, see this one guy that I see at every fucking wrestling thing. Like,
Really?
ever, yeah.
Can you describe him in detail?
He's got like a kind of a mullet. It's wavy.
Of course.
Yeah.
Low tits,
Look
high
like
butt.
Yeah.
Brian Pillman.
Yeah, everywhere I run into this guy. Record stores, comic book shops, he's always there. So anyways, we get in line. It ends up taking like 2 hours to get in because X-Pac actually wasn't like rushing people. He was really talking to them.
Really?
And plus it was
You
cool.
can tell he's off drugs now then if he's
Yeah.
actually talking.
Yeah, but they were letting like 10 people in at a time, and so you had a chance to actually like look around the store and everything and see all the cool ass shit. Like it's
I haven't been there yet. I'm really super excited to go there.
It's an amazing store. Like even like just the wall decor, like they had the keep it sleazy.
Yeah, the Joey Ryan.
Yeah, the neon
King of Dawn
sign.
style.
Yeah,
I
awesome.
hate to shit on your parade, but I had to ask you, like, what does someone ask, being that I'm not like a huge wrestling guy, what does someone ask a wrestler after waiting in line to see them? Like, so you're like, oh, he's spending time talking to people. Do you reference an old match? Like, hey, remember that time you did this? And he's probably like, yeah, I did it 700 times.
Right. Well, there were a few things I wanted to ask him, but then when it came time, I just really didn't think to bring it up.
It's always how
like
it is, isn't it?
I wanted to ask him about the time he ripped his asshole open.
Oh,
at
yeah,
an indie
yeah.
show. Yeah,
Well, you're just going to go right for it. I was like,
right. How's your asshole?
I'm sure he's happy you forgot to ask him.
Right.
He went hard in the paint.
But no, I have
In the taint?
Bam!
In the tank.
I have an old WWF album of 22 karat gold cards from the Danbury Mint. I've had
You
since
could just
Oh,
leave
I
it
thought
here.
you.
99.
I thought you were talking about Land of 1,000 Dances.
right. But anyway, so I had an X-Pac card for him to sign, and I open the binder and show him, and at first he thinks it's the 1, 2, 3 kid, and he's like, oh yeah, and he goes, wait, this is an X-Pac card. I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, I thought you had 1, 2, 3 kid. He's like, these were really cool, and then like he was just a really nice guy. We talked.
Is that like a Hall of Fame player going into the Hall on
He'll
one
go in the
team
Hall
and
of
saying
Fame, I
like,
believe.
no, well, like, hey, I'd rather actually go in as a Met, even though I ended my career. So for him saying like, I'd rather you sign the 1, 2, 3 kid card.
Oh, I get
for,
what you're
you know what I
saying.
mean? Is that like since these wrestlers changed their gimmicks or characters?
I don't think he would. That's a good point because JR is wearing the awesome fucking Razor Ramon shirt from Pro Wrestling Tees, which you can buy at ProWrestlingTees.com. It's the cover of the first Ramones record, but it's all the Ramones with Razor Ramon's head on it. It just says Ramones spelled Razor Ramon style without the E. Which very sick T-shirt. Check it out. But for instance, with him when he went to the Hall of Fame, he went in as Razor Ramon, right?
Right.
Not as Scott Hall, which I was kind of like, well, what the fuck is that? Because Scott, we all know who Razor Ramon and Scott Hall
And
is.
he
should have
was
just went
bigger
in.
as Scott Hall than he ever was as Razor Ramon.
Yeah.
Granted, he was huge as Razor Ramon,
Right.
but the NWO just elevated him.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a great question because I think X-Pac, I think he'll probably go in. I would like him to go in as, well, I wouldn't like to say I'm not going to say I'd like him to go in. He
Everything
will.
lines up the way I want it.
Right. He's going to
Is there
probably go in
politics
as
involved though?
Yeah,
Like, so,
oh, yeah.
so like
It's
if-
Vince's
if-
politics.
That's what I'm saying. So
Well-
if you were his character in his federation as this, and you're going into the Hall of Fame, then he's not. If you came from somewhere else,
I think so.
Yeah.
I think he'll
But-
probably go in as the kid.
But given that he's buddies with Hunter,
Right. But so was
he'll,
Scott Hall.
he'll have his choice on what he wants to go in as, I think.
Maybe.
I mean,
I guess
maybe he wanted to
only
go in as
time will
Razor
tell.
since it was WWF.
But you know what? You should have had him sign. Do you have a China card?
Actually, I do.
You should have had him sign the
Think about
crotch
because-
of that card.
Well, I was gonna have her sign it at the Days of the Dead convention when I met Bret Hart, and
she
but then I
perished.
saw she was charging $60 for an autograph, and I'm like,
So you did see her?
yeah. I was like,
Did you get any snaps of her?
yeah. But I was like, Bret Hart's not even charging $60. So
Yeah, but it's China. You know,
well,
jerked
I didn't
off
know
for-
she was gonna die 6 months later.
Right.
So
Neither did she.
I don't know if you saw the last video she ever posted.
Yeah.
It was just she was
One of the last ones I remember.
she was
her
like making
doing,
a smoothie, and it took her like a half hour.
I'm on all these pills.
Yeah, she was like chugging like gallons of water.
H, why'd you dub me? That's shitty.
Yeah.
Johnny
Hasselhoff's
Lawler.
video was probably even more depressing, but he's still alive. So
Hasselhoff had a bad one.
yeah, remember when
Yeah,
he was
like, drunk
and
eating a
cheese-
cheeseburger off the
his daughter
ground.
was videotaping him.
He
in
was
the
like
height of
laying
his
on the ground
alcoholism.
eating it off the floor. Like
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Shout out to the Hoff for that because hey, you put yourself out there, and I enjoy a story about it. So, anyways,
I had him sign the card, and then each person in line got their own ticket. So when I went up with Xander, they were like, "Do you want 1 or 2?" I was like, "Well, give me 2." So he signed 8x10 for Xander, and he wrote to my friend Xander, and
Suck
signed
it.
X-Pac, and wrote "Suck it."
he
right under
a
it.
5-year-old kid.
Well,
he signed
well,
"Suck It." What
listen.
is he telling him to suck?
Listen, but then right after he wrote
Why don't
"Suck
you have
it,"
a seat?
he slides it off the table onto the floor, and he goes, "Shit."
Who, your son?
No, X-Pac.
Oh, I was gonna say your son's the shit.
I was like, it's fine. He plays Fortnite every day and kills people in there. And he's
Yeah.
like, no, it's not fine. And then I thought about it. I'm like, well, he is a porn star too, and
Yeah.
wrote "Suck It" on a 5-year-old's autograph.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. And he's
Yeah.
got that dog that like can't move.
Yeah, well, that was my son was excited about the dog. He was
Really?
like, Teddy, can I get a picture with the dog? So
This dilapidated dog.
After we took our pictures doing the Too Sweet,
Still cooler than X-Pac.
then he took a
Probably.
picture with the dog.
Too sweet.
So is your
There you
goal to
go.
go around and finally like meet everyone and anyone, or do you go to some and go like, yeah, miss me with that? Like,
well,
I don't care about that person.
I try to hit places of the wrestlers that I have cards.
This guy
that
has
haven't
a
been signed.
You name it pretty much, and he's met these
Yeah.
fucking
Well,
wrestlers.
so Wizard World is the same as Comic-Con, is the same as
No.
C2E2, but specific to.
No,
Well-
they're not the same. They're both comic book conventions, but
But that's what he's saying. It's
Yeah.
the
No,
same
yeah.
concept.
But what is that one more
See,
leaning to?
Wizard
It's
World's-
gaming, right? Tabletop.
it's literally like everything. But
Pop
as far as
culture.
like is involving wrestling, they tend to have
More.
former WWF, WWE wrestlers. Whereas a C2E2, they'll bring in Lucha Underground.
well, even current, right?
TNA.
Because wasn't Punk there when we went?
Yeah. Punk was there when I went to C2E2 this past spring, and Batista was there too.
Yeah.
That's when I met
Oh
him.
yeah, Big Dick Dave.
Oh yeah, Big Dick Dave.
Yep.
Not you, Karsky. I haven't seen. I don't know. Not saying that you are not packing, but you know. Next.
So, anyways, how I brought up how my sister lives 1.6 miles from there. So
Yes.
I'm on a tight time schedule because we didn't get out of there until almost 2. Well, Wizard World closes at 7. So I'm like, all right, it's not even 2 miles away. Took me over 20 minutes to get there because Chicago traffic. And their speed bumps are speed mountains now. Like, they are...
At least they're not herpes.
Wah, wah, wah. And
Speed bumps.
so we stopped by my sister's real quick, and my son was all sweaty, so we changed clothes. And then we headed to Wizard World, which was 13 miles from my sister's. Took over an hour to get there because Chicago traffic.
How much was it to get into Wizard World?
The price actually went down this year because
So did I.
when we used to go, it was like $25 for any
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
Well, then they raised it to
like 50 or something.
Well, no, they had raised it like Thursdays were 40, Fridays were 50, Saturdays were 75.
Jesus.
Well, they dropped them down to 55 this year, but I still ended up paying 65 because I bought it there and not pre-sale. But yeah, so we get in and it's already 4 o'clock by the time we get there. So it's like we got 3 hours now to meet everybody and then still see the convention.
And drop a shitload of money.
Yeah, I still drop. Yeah.
It don't take long at those conventions.
Oh,
You
no.
could be in there for 10 minutes and blow like
Yeah.
a few $1,000s.
Especially like with my kid, I'll always tell him like you have, let's say, $30 to spend on anything. The very first booth, he's
You're
trying
very
to buy
unfair,
something.
Dad. You only give him $30,
And
you
he's-
cheap bastard.
Well, there's food, there's all this other stuff.
No, yeah, you're right.
So he'll buy something at the first booth, and I'm like, well, why don't you wait? Let's
Right.
walk around and see. And
Oh, yeah.
it never fails. No,
Same
I
thing.
want this. And then you buy it, and then he goes to the next booth. He's like, can I take this back? I'm like, no, you already opened it. You're
Yeah.
wearing it already.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I met up with my brother at Wizard World. Shout out to Tony Butchko. So first thing when we get there, my son right away, Daddy, I want Legos, and he sees Legos. And I told him like, no,
Legos
we
are the
don't
worst
hit the
present.
first booth. I was like, we walk around and see who has the best deals, because there's some are $5 each or 5 for 20.
Oh yeah, you
know?
can find the same exact shit there at the Comic-Con. That one guy, like you're saying, selling for $20, and then go down to another booth, and he's got like this awesome Ash pop figure for $5. That
Yeah.
you got me. Shout out to Butch Man Lee, even though he's right in front of me.
So yeah, the first booth that we see of Legos, it's like 5 for 20, and I told him like, no, we'll go to a different booth. And then I had to explain to my brother and his fiance how
What'd
things
she
are at
look like?
conventions. Very lovely lady.
Nice, Tony.
And so the next booth we go to that has Legos, same ones as the other booth, they're 10 for 20. So, you just got to, shop around. So first thing we're like, all right, we're going to go meet the people because, they have designated times and it's already towards the end of the day. So we go in the Boy Meets World line.
Oh, yeah.
And I go to meet Topanga and
I didn't
Corey
recognize
Matthews.
her in that picture you sent me.
Yeah, but she looked better in person. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know, the picture came out like
Because she
shit.
was still hot from I remember a few years ago, wasn't she on the cover of
Well, she just did like a rap battle on one of those shows against the kid from Jerry Maguire.
I'd like to
It was-
rap
it was
battle
really
her
funny,
vagina.
Right? I kept telling her, I was like, keep on working on them rap skills. But so we're in line there, and then I look over and I see Velvet Sky at her booth, and there was nobody there.
What?
Yeah, so I was like, all right. Well, I think she had just come out because her designated time had just started. So I got out of line and I go over to her.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to do
Beautiful
all the
people.
wrestlers first, then I'll do Boy Meets World.
Which is, for Dave, just so you know, Velvet Sky, former TNA Impact Wrestling Knockouts champion, and the girlfriend of Bubba Ray Dudley.
Oh.
now known as
No
Bully
way.
Ray.
Yeah,
That's
Bully Ray.
really?
Yeah.
And she is smoking hot, and
Yeah.
she's just as nice as she is hot. Cool as hell. I talked to her for probably 15 minutes.
Yeah, she gave us that sweet ass video that
That's
you were
right.
able to get for Juice Pro Wrestling. So,
That's right.
Velvet Sky is part of the JP Woo. Why aren't you?
I'm now president of marketing relations
With Velvet Sky, he'd love to be.
and the Nasty Boys. But anyways, so I first go to her, and she had a bunch of 8x10s to choose from. And so I
As
asked my
they all do.
son. I was like, which one do you want?
Yeah.
And he picked out the Freddy Krueger one.
Oh,
with the
that one's a
claws
good
coming
one.
up
I
through the
remember
tub.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she signed in that, and then I thanked her. I was like, thanks for not going to WWF, like not even thinking WWE. And she goes, oh no, I'd work for WWF.
Yeah, because that's money. That's kind of a dick thing
no.
to say. Like, thanks for not making money for yourself
No,
and not
no.
achieving success in your life.
Let me finish. She said,
Keeping
no,
it
I'd
real.
work for WWF. I wouldn't work for WWE. She said, they're garbage.
Yeah.
And she said,
So she's
all the
against
failed
it.
attempts at trying to copy the beautiful people, like
Yeah,
Lay
they've done it,
Cool,
yeah.
the icons, like
Yeah, the Iconics or whatever.
Yeah.
Why are they garbage? I don't know what you're talking
because
about.
they're like literally ripping off the beautiful people gimmick.
What is that?
It's a
Break it
gimmick
down.
from
They were like the
Impact
Mean
Wrestling.
Girls
Oh, okay.
kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Hot Mean Girls.
Gotcha.
And she's saying she wouldn't work for WWE because they're a publicly traded company that is TVPG.
Well, yeah.
So you're not going to get stuff like, I know
She
you're
said-
not familiar with like Stone Cold and the Attitude Era, but you're not going to get like, it was really kind of like raunchy.
But it's funny because I was just telling someone, I said, yeah, I'm going to go on this podcast, and like I feel like I'm like, my wrestling knowledge stopped before Stone Cold, and probably, I don't even know when it ended. Hulk Hogan didn't have a black beard at the time. That's all new to me. But my brother was into wrestling a little bit, and so I remember I took him to like a Raw or one of these events. He's like only a couple years younger than me, but I was so far disconnected. I think I saw The Rock, but I remember in that era, like going back and watching the videos now on Instagram and seeing like how crazy it is. Like I don't know that could happen today because there you
and it
have
doesn't.
Because they're a
The
public
Rock is like
company now.
spitting beer in women's faces. Stone Cold is like whatever his move, his stunner, whatever to a female.
Hell yeah.
And I was like, man, this is so
Ridiculous.
It's
Over the
ridiculous.
top.
But I'm like, man, I wish I would have been in that era because
it
I
was
feel like
the
I
best
missed
era ever.
There's no going
Yeah.
back to it. So like I
If
missed
you were
out
in
on
college back then, you would have fucking
for sure.
You would have been beaten off in the socks left and right.
I mean, just, I love it. Just the violence and the stuff they were doing.
Right.
It just seemed like you said, like so crazy, and it was.
It was, but as much as I love the Attitude Era, it's weird. But now that I'm older and I go back and watch some of the shit on the network, there was a lot of garbage with it too. Like really, there was. Like
like Mae Young giving birth to a hand.
yeah, like
Oh, like
she
the
got
storyline
knocked
stuff that
up
was
by
happening.
Mark
That's-
Henry. Like
a big black guy.
sexual chocolate.
Yeah.
It's sexual.
See, I didn't even know they continued doing that. I thought like after Piper's Pit and that stupid Brother Love and that stuff that was happening.
Oh no, those I
They're like
love
the little
the
skit
talk
things.
show like things. Yeah, like let's segue into that real quick, and we'll come back to the Wizard World because I like how you brought up the talk show thing. And one of the biggest moments in pro wrestling for a talk show,
The barbershop.
exactly with Shawn Michaels when they were still. You remember Shawn Michaels, Mari
Yeah.
Janae, the Rockers, right?
Sure.
Well, back this was what early '90s,
Probably 92?
if that.
I was gonna say I would think it
might
before
have
that.
been '91.
Right.
I mean, fuck,
Maybe.
who knows?
Because he got with Sherry right after that.
Right, but Brutus was doing that barbershop because he was back, but he couldn't
was
wrestle
hurt.
because he had that motorcycle accident
Right,
or the
right.
boating accident, whatever.
So did you know that at the time that's why?
No.
Okay.
No,
Because
we didn't have
we
the
were little
internet back
kids, yeah, and that's what's cool about back then. Like I've said on previous episodes, we're probably like the last generation that will kind of really appreciate kayfabe and be like, wow, like for a long time. Of course, you had people that were going to say, "Oh, well, wrestling's we don't say that."
Right.
word
No,
on here,
I've listened enough. I know.
you'll have people that say that, but back then you didn't know, there, and it's like JR said, there's no internet, there's no dirt sheets. I mean, you had to call Mean Gene's hotline for
then. He's just giving you some bullshit.
for $9.99 a minute.
You're
He's like, Hogan's going to continue to suck.
I'm probably like
Oh.
5, 6, 7 years older than you guys, but
Right.
I could tell you, like, I remember growing up and wrestling. There wasn't that much stuff on. And Saturday morning was wrestling. They had
Right.
rock and wrestling, and then real wrestling.
Well,
and
do you remember ESPN back in the day? They used to do AWA.
I don't know, like who was in that. Like,
Everybody did.
so the same character
Gagne.
people were in both.
Yeah, Vern Gagne ran it. Dude, Hogan, Andre, Shawn Michaels,
So-
Big Scott Hall.
Like probably back then, I didn't realize that there was more than one organization. If wrestling was on, you just
I
watched
say
it.
Kurt Hennig was in
Right.
there too.
So I was telling my son when we were watching the Andre the Giant documentary, he was asking me like, "Hey, Andre seems like a pretty nice guy. He's super cool. It's a really sad story." And I'm like, "No, everybody hated that dude. Like nobody liked Andre. Everyone liked Hogan."
Right. When we were kids, though,
You didn't have a
that's
choice.
how
They
it was.
steered you in that direction.
You didn't like Andre. Like as a grown up now, I really do respect and
Oh, sure.
appreciate the
Right.
fuck out of Andre.
Especially after finding out like what he actually just went through in his everyday life.
But
Yeah.
they told you I'm sure there were people that liked bad guys, but even with the cartoons and all the publicity they pushed at it, were like, hey, these are the guys you like, and these are the guys you
Right.
don't like, and you like to not like
Right.
those guys. You liked everybody, but you sure nobody was wearing an Iron
Right.
Sheik shirt. Everybody was wearing
Yeah.
the Hulk shirt that
It
you
took-
could rip off.
It took like the 90s in the Attitude Movement where guys like Stone Cold, they blurred those lines where guys were anti-heroes.
Sure.
well, they
Because-
were more of just the everyday guy. Like, Stone Cold, the appeal with him was he beats his boss's ass.
Yeah.
Like he does what he wants. Like,
But
that's what everybody wants
He was
to
a beer
do. They
drinking,
wanna-
middle finger. That's what I'm saying.
He's
Like
middle America.
anti-hero.
But he wasn't like a freak
He was
of
a
nature
hero, but he
either.
was also a heel. And same thing with like guys with like Razor Ramon. He was super cool, but he was a bad guy. He was like pushing kids in the pool, and
Right,
like,
throwing
doing
toothpicks
heel
in
shit. But
people's
he was
faces.
so cool, like he was oozing machismo,
Especially for the Midwest, like a guy like Stone Cold, you were like, hey, that's a guy that works at
shit.
the steel mill.
I
Like
think
that's just like somebody's dad that I know.
the Midwest probably paid for a lot of like we were the reason why Stone Cold is rich, probably,
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's recognizable. Because you're like, that guy comes home, he drinks.
He was blue
beers.
collar, dude.
He's like a take no bullshit kind of guy,
Right.
and that's his whole thing. And I don't know, he was somebody before that, correct? He had a different character.
Yeah, he
before
was
that.
the ringmaster, and then before that, he was stunning
Steve Austin, part of the Hollywood Blondes.
So it's crazy for me because I'm not aware of all those things. Like these guys tried out all these other things, and something pops,
Right.
and then they just stay with that.
Well,
except for Mick Foley, right? He was popular with a bunch of different characters.
Yeah.
True, but during the Attitude Era, people they didn't want gimmicks anymore. They didn't want Doink the Clown. They didn't want Bash
Guys
the
who
Booger.
had like
just let
jobs.
the wrestlers be themselves, just amplify their personality, and
Right.
that's what worked.
Like,
Like
didn't
we
like the
do
big
here.
fat guy that just sat on people, like that was his thing, or was that still
Which
in-
one?
Oh, I
Rikishi?
remember, yeah, I remember
Yokozuna?
that guy. I remember he just had like a big dimply ass.
Actually,
that he, like, bumped into people, and I was like,
Actually,
why is that
Saturday-
cool?
Saturday, Rikishi was just in Chicago hosting a party at a strip club.
It was like his ass still stinks.
Well, no, it was like titled like the Big Booty Contest, hosted by Rikishi.
I mean, good for him that he found something that worked. He figured
Right.
out this is who I am, this is what I look like.
He
so,
made
and
money.
Yeah, he did. But it's
Hey,
like,
accentuate the positives.
who thought that was cool though? Because if you're a wrestling guy, it's like you want to see another guy put his butt on another. I mean, forget
No.
all the other implications. It's just not that cool of a move.
No.
It's stupid.
For the wrestling purists, no. I'll agree with you there. No, and I didn't even really care for it back in the day. It was like, oh god, it was like a cringe because you could see this big dimply fucking ass.
Yeah, it was gross.
Just like
Did you see the meme that Rikishi just shared? It was a picture of Nicki Minaj's ass and his ass, and they're like identical. And he like put like hashtag Nikishi. And he's like, let's get it going.
If you could, again,
I would do. I'd take one of those.
being ignorant, I look back and I go like, Hulk Hogan, his moves aren't that cool. Like the guy does a thing where he holds his hand up after 3 times or 2 times, and he does a leg. He just like holds his
All
leg
right,
up.
Thank
we're
you.
not
Hold up, hold up.
He's got 7 moves and 5 of them are poses.
I'm not gonna. My whole point was
I
is
love you.
you have this whole other group of people that come in and do these like crazy aerial techniques, and so
Right.
I always wondered. You put your marketing behind Hulk Hogan, that's great. Everybody loves Hulk Hogan. He's
Right.
doing movies, doing all this, but you have all these other guys that are doing this crazy stuff. So how come Hulk doesn't have to evolve, or how come some of the older wrestlers just go like, well, hey, we're sort of the older guys and we do this, sort of these moves.
Well, see, in to counteract that point, and you're very right. Excuse me, dick in my throat.
Excuse me, dick in my throat.
Back in those days, like especially in the early '90s, late '80s, the golden era, the Hogan era, we like to call it. Vince McMahon was
You
very
like to
much,
call it.
yeah. Vince was in the big buff dudes, and they did not a lot of
I
them
think he
did a
still
lot
is.
of moves. Yeah, oh for sure.
Samoans.
Well, I don't think you can be
Yeah.
that aerial when you're built like
Right,
that.
but and for people to say Hogan couldn't wrestle, I mean, he could wrestle. Here's the thing: he didn't have to. He didn't have to be the Shawn Michaels guy. I agree with both points because I very much love technical wrestlers, like your Dean Malenkos, your Eddie Guerreros. Even William Regal. Like,
Well, can I interrupt for a second? As much as I hate on Hogan, I will say his repertoire of moves was
more than John Cena's.
way bigger when he was in like Japan and stuff.
Yeah,
He
and
came
even
to
in
WWF, and they just
WCW.
wanted him to do.
Well,
Right.
I wasn't trying to shit on him. I was just trying to make
Right.
the point. Like it seems like everybody comes in, and from what I've seen from watching like the Divas show or whatever, they have this this.
You watch that shit?
next? Yeah, absolutely.
That's all right, me too.
But they go to these wrestling training camps or whatever, and they go like, hey, what's your move going to be? And
Right.
they come up with their signature move. And some guys' signature moves are like, it's not. I mean, if that's really your signature move, you're going to go with that?
Yeah.
Camel
Roman
clutch,
Reigns.
simple, but it's one of the coolest. I did a camel clutch to every kid in the neighborhood.
Oh yeah,
I still do it to this
hurts.
day.
It hurts too.
Absolutely. Figure 4 leg lock.
Matchka.
Well, I think one of the main reasons why people, or at least maybe for me, why Roman Reigns is so hated is because of his finishing move. I mean,
The
he
spear.
cocks his wrist, punches the floor, and then jumps up and punches somebody, and that's gonna
The
beat
Superman
Brock
punch,
Lesnar.
yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, like, so Mike Tyson, what the allure to this guy is the
Right.
fact that he knocks people out in the most grandiose fashion. Like,
Right.
it's going to happen, and that's why you go to see it. So at the end of the match, after an hour or 20 minutes or however long it goes, somebody does something like a forearm shiver, and it's like, then the guy falls down and he's out.
It's
Okay,
a
but-
climax to the story they're telling in the ring.
That's the part you miss on me, and that's where you guys picked it up and went like, there's way more to it than what just happens inside the ring.
Exactly.
But to the point where you're saying, they're waiting for the lead up to the punch. Okay, you've just done a 45-minute match. You're exhausted. So before you're going to do the punch, you're going to cock your wrist and punch the ground?
Yeah,
it's not believable.
it's not. But here's the thing.
I can't punch this guy until I cock my wrist and punch the mat.
But we're talking about WWE, and they're not into the believable
Vince
shit
like,
anymore.
punch my butthole.
They're into this guy is fucking. He's a handsome ass guy. He looks like a superhero. So guess what sells? Guess what's huge? Superheroes in movies. He's gonna cock that fist and do the pound because that's the Superman punch. It's a superhero-esque thing. It's that's. And we know that as wrestling fans, we're not looking for that. We're looking for the more pure aspect.
But that's also one of the reasons why every Comic-Con has wrestlers, because it goes hand in hand.
It's entertainment, for sure.
Yeah, it is. It's pop culture, dude. And that's like a big part of this podcast.
One of the original, I think it's issue number 0 of the Undertaker comic book.
Oh, yeah. And remember Mick Foley did one, too.
Yeah.
Who put those
Warrior
out?
did one. WWF put
Warrior
out the Warrior
did
one.
Did they put the Warrior? I thought that was Image.
No, that was WWF, because I remember getting the first issue of it in
I thought that was
WWF
Rob
magazine.
Liefeld artwork.
No, I forget who did the artwork, but yeah, WWF had sent out
It was a
subscribers
horrible
to
book.
Oh yeah, the artwork was cool, but
Speak to me, Warriors!
So, well, typically, like from what you guys know, so do these guys, they come up with their own characters and they go to development, or does development say like, hey, we're looking for a guy who is a cowboy and this is what his spiel is?
It depends. It's a mixture of the two. Like, say they're bringing in a guy that's on the independent circuit, right? That's never been in WWE. They already have somewhat of an established character. WWE's bringing him in because of that, because they know that, hey, we can market this guy. He's got somewhat of a following. We're just going to tweak it a bit, because as a business maneuver, we have to own this.
Sure.
Like, you're going to come in and like Ricochet is a perfect example. Prince Puma from Lucha Underground. He's going to come in, and a few guys, they surprisingly let them keep their names, like Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, because there's been a lot of top independent talent that has come in. Finn Balor, Prince Devitt, they changed his name because WWE wants to own that, so everything he does under that name, they're going to get paid for.
Well, a great example, if you want to see how it actually works, if you watch the documentary Beyond the Mat, when Darren Drozdov meets
Going
with
old
Vince,
school. He's gonna.
Vince has already told that Darren Drozdov can puke on command.
Right.
So, he's like, well, can I see it? And he's like, you want me to puke? And he's like, yeah. And then like Vince is hyping him up. He's like,
behind the desk.
You feeling sick?
Yeah.
You gonna puke?
Hey.
You're gonna puke? And he like pukes in a garbage can. And so then he came out as the name Puke at first.
And then D'Lo Brown crippled him.
Yeah. D'Lo Brown was just in Crown Point 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, Black Label Pro. Shout out to you guys. I hit you up. Get back at JPDub.
And another instance, Scott Hall. When he first met with Vince, somebody had told Vince that Scott Hall did a really good Scarface impression. So he did it for him, and then Vince was like, just came up like I forget how they came up with the name, but right then he knew which character he wanted.
Sure.
He wanted like, a Miami guy, Cuban.
And it worked, dude.
I just wonder if, since you guys were younger during that era, because my era seemed like it was no frills. Like the first exciting thing that happened was the Ultimate Warrior. Like when that dude hit the scene, I remember him like coming in, sliding under the ropes, doing like 2 or 3 back and forths, wiping out everybody in the ring,
and then being
I
blown
want to say
out.
like maybe the first time I ever
He's
saw him, maybe it was like a SummerSlam or one of these events, Royal Rumble, where he just like came in and like knocked like 7 dudes out of the ring like right away.
Yeah,
And
so the Honky Tonk was the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion, and Warrior squashed him in like 8 seconds.
All of a sudden Warrior's music hits, and that was at a
Yeah, that
SummerSlam,
too.
and he came in and beat him in a set amount of seconds in that.
But they literally changed the entire direction, because I remember being a kid and being like, well, who cares about Hulk Hogan now? Because there's this guy that really don't know too much about, but he's got the cool, he's super ginormous. Like he was a smaller guy, but he was built way bigger than Hogan, like for as small as he was.
Everything was neon.
Long hair.
airbrushed.
He looked like Captain Caveman.
He was a
like,
fucking He
didn't really say anything. He just came in there like a maniac. And
but then when he did say shit, and you're like, as a kid, you didn't even really give a fuck.
You didn't know what
You're
cocaine was then.
Yeah, right.
Well, that was the superstar era. That was the exciting stuff then. But then they graduated into the Attitude Era when the NWO came around, and then on
More
a Monday
shit.
Night Raw, when DX comes out, you might see tits on TV. Because they just tell girls to flash and
The Jerry
show it on
Springer
TV.
shit. They were going for that. You know?
They were always showing tits, like accidental. Like no, it was planned. They were doing whatever they could to beat the NWO in the ratings, and it didn't happen until Eric Bischoff, who ran WCW, Raw was a pre-tape show. Nitro was live, so they had already heard the results of Monday Night Raw, and he decided to be a smartass and give away the results so people didn't tune away. Well, it backfired because he announced that Mick Foley won the championship, and everybody turned over to that, and that's when WWF took over the ratings war. They had lost for like 82 weeks or something in a row, 83 weeks. And
well, what keeps like I got to a point like probably in high school where I was just like, yeah, I'm out of it. Had I stayed in long enough and saw the Stone Cold stuff, I may still be watching it today like you guys. So I'm like wondering, is it because where your age is that you guys got into it? Now think back and you've seen the old stuff. Being a wrestling person, if you would have been me and in that era, do you think you would be where I'm at? Where I'm like, I don't understand why you guys still watch wrestling or like wrestling. It doesn't speak to me the way it speaks to you.
Right.
I believe, was it 2001 when Vince purchased ECW and WCW?
Yeah, year I graduated.
Yeah, after that, I probably stopped watching for 10 years because, he bought his competition.
Like all wrestling, not just his, just all.
Yeah.
You're out all together.
Yeah, I was just like, because there really was nothing else back then. So I was just at a point where I'm like, Vince is only putting out shit that makes him giggle, So I stopped watching. But now back at around 96 there was a revolution in wrestling. That's when you had your NWO and your DX, and there was a ratings war. They call it the Monday Night Wars. There's a documentary about it and everything. This lasted for 4 years total, probably, the ratings war, and then Vince bought out the competition. Well, there's a revolution again in wrestling.
Yep.
Because there's an uprising of Ring of Honor, Impact, Lucha Underground, all these other Black Label Pro, Windy City Wrestling, freelance wrestling that are producing great talents, even in other countries.
Well, this is where the internet wins out, right? So all these DIY people get together and they go, well, we're going to cut out all the, all the wardrobe stuff. We're just going to do the wrestling.
No, they even have the wardrobes.
But what it is, it's just a better presentation. It's not a Fortune 500 company or whatever you want to call them. Because nowadays, it's not only Vince sitting there saying, well, that's okay. They have to sit there and think, well, I got this investor or I have this guy that's, we get paid for commercials, Coca-Cola or whoever that endorses WWE. They do, Susan G. Komen. There is a punk movement, much like ECW was back in the day with professional wrestling again, with all, like he said, all these different organizations and independent organizations were when WWE bought out ECW. Let me break it down to you real quick. In the 90s, you had WWF and WCW that were like the big ballers, the big boys, They were the guys with the major television deals, and then along come ECW, that Eastern Championship Wrestling, which morphed into Extreme Championship Wrestling.
Because of Shane Douglas.
Right, and Paul Heyman, who had a vision to kind of bring you more of an underground, more of a gritty, like...
they knew what the fans wanted at that time.
Exactly. They were reflecting the times, And I think, like, what's going on now is you kind of have a revolt against WWE that is actually able to be possible, and not even 10 years ago, because of the way social media has evolved, the way we consume our media in general, as far as streaming, and like whether it's wrestling or TV shows or any of that shit. How many people do you know that really like still have cable unless they're just like too stupid to cancel it?
Right.
Because it's worthless. Like, what do you need all that shit
get
for
that
when you watch
Firebox.
two things? Yeah, whether it's Fire TV or whether you're
YouTube,
Montez.
Netflix, whatever.
Yeah, or streaming services. It's changed the way that the wrestling business has worked and the way it's been consumed. And so now people have more access to these independent promotions that are putting out great matches and great entertainment. Because there's still the over-the-top crazy characters and shit, but it's a matter of finding which ones that you can identify with. And there's a lot of them out now that are guys like our age that are old-school comic fans or like He-Man or whatever, and they come out dressed like these guys, or
Finn Balor or Cage.
Or Brian Cage, who just dressed up as Bane. He looked like a real-life Bane from fucking
it's insane,
Batman.
like how jacked this dude is.
And like,
And
I'm
he's
talking
super
the
talented.
comic, like not the fucking, not that Bane.
Well, do you think that like the guys that were under these wrestling contracts, like so Hulk Hogan did a couple of stupid movies in the 80s.
He did a lot of them.
Well, I mean, I only know of two. I only know the one with Zeus.
No Holds Barred.
No
I got
Holds
it on
Barred.
DVD and
Suburban
Blu-ray.
Commando.
And
Actually,
Suburban
I'm going to be
Commando.
meeting Tiny Zeus Lister
Debo?
in November.
That's my back.
He's going to be at the Days of the Dead convention in Schaumburg, along with Lita and Trish Stratus.
You look at that video that you played at the top of the show,
Right.
the audio from it, where Ultimate Warrior's out there and he's talking to a bunch of kids, and he's probably coked out of his mind. And you think to yourself, like, that nowadays, you could take something like that and be like, I want to see what this dude, let's put him in weird situations
Right.
and have him be his character. Maybe that's how he is in real life. I don't know.
The thing about him
Like
is
that
he
intense.
actually changed his name to Warrior.
Yeah, he's from
Because-
Indiana too.
Yeah.
But so I'm interested in that. Like that small video, it's hilarious to me because like you were saying, that's just like where we are now, where kids are like, oh, I can't do it, and he's like, because that reminds me, probably you guys of our dads, and where that era has ended. I still try to be like that with my kid, but it sort of falls on deaf ears sometimes because he's like, come on, man, that's not real. Like other kids' dads aren't like that. Like I'm an anomaly. But I can identify with that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And that, I feel the same way, like what you're saying. It's like, it may be a lot of people, unfortunately, nowadays, it's kind of like, oh, well, because of the whole, everything's PG and PC and fuck all that, you know? I just said fuck, forgive me. I think that's the way I try to emulate myself, too. Like, hey, listen, the world's going to fucking chew you up and spit you the fuck out if you don't go fucking hard at it and believe in yourself and do what you're going to do. And you know what? There might be a couple of F-bombs dropped along the way. There might be a couple of, my voice might get a little more intimidating. But
you watch that video like me, and I go like, I laugh, but part of me is like, dude,
that's right.
If I was out there and he's yelling at me, I'm doing what he's telling me.
Exactly.
Like I'm not going to be like,
it's motivating.
I wouldn't even look at that guy and been like, I can't do that, because I would have been like, dude, that's the Warrior. Like I'm doing it. I'm doing
kids
whatever.
now would be like,
well, remember Warrior University?
Yeah, that's what that was. That's what that
was from.
It reminds me of like Scared Straight.
Yeah, because I remember them advertising it in WWF magazine. So, okay.
Yeah, that's super awesome. Like I look at that and I go, maybe Vince has control of those people, but I always like to see the real personalities of these guys outside of that. So that's why I like us when I watch the Divas. It's probably part scripted or whatever, or mostly scripted.
There's 19 writers. It's scripted.
But what I'm saying is, you still get a feel for these people as people.
Yes.
So all of it is blown out, and they probably go, "Hey, do that again. That was really good." But cry more during it, you know.
But you see how you like that, seeing the real character or real person. That's why the Attitude Era was so huge, because that's what those guys were.
And there is an Attitude Era that's going on outside of WWE. Like for right now, for pro wrestling fans, it's probably, this has the potential to be the biggest era ever, just because of all the media exposure and everything, and because WWE is not the ones doing it. I'll put it to you this way: guys that are super huge, like your Kenny Omegas, your Cody Rhodes, your Young Bucks, they don't need to go to WWF or WWE to make that money, because they're balling out of control, because they know how to promote themselves, they know what people want, and they're great fucking athletes.
Okay, I'm going to make a statement. True or false?
False.
WWE is the most profitable company right now, but not the most popular. I would argue
very true.
That
New Japan is,
exactly.
And there's
with Bullet Club,
it's the underground. They are the most popular. Do they sell more shirts than WWE? If you go to Hot Topic, Bullet Club shirts sell more than any WWE superstar.
I was talking with the owner of Pro Wrestling Tees, and
Ryan. What's his name?
Yeah, Ryan. He was explaining to me, because he had a badass Bullet Club shirt on.
Yeah,
and I asked him where he got it, and he said he ordered it from Japan.
Oh, I thought he was gonna say, "Hey, I made it," because they do make some. They got some.
They have their shirts are just. I definitely recommend anybody that's in Chicago. It's on Damon Avenue or Damon Street. Great shop. But he was explaining to me that, like, I guess they don't pay rent there. 1 Hour Tees pays the rent.
So 1 Hour Tees. That's because he
wants to put a wrestling ring in the shop.
Yeah, I saw that on Instagram.
Yeah,
they had all this extra space in the garage.
But he was saying, everybody, every day, at least 20 people ask him, when are you going to open a shop in California? When are you going to open one in New York? And he said, never. He said, the cool thing about the shop is it's exclusive to Chicago. Right. So he said he's never going to open another shop. That's
smart, dude. That's smart, because you have to go there.
But he said you'd be surprised how much money they don't make on their retail store. He said everything's like online.
It's online. No, that's not really surprising.
Because when you consider they're constantly having wrestlers there like every other day.
But they're also in Chicago. Who wants to fucking go hang out in the middle of winter?
Yeah, I got to meet X-Pac for free. So
probably when they have wrestlers there, they're paying those wrestlers, so that comes off the top end too. So
right.
They don't have to pay for the brick and mortar online.
Well, like I said with the X-Pac thing, like the first 100 people were free. Well, he was there for 3 hours. While I was in line, I think they had 80 people. So there wasn't any money coming out for that. It was just they were hoping people were buying stuff in the store.
But that's
Xbox. They had some really good deals too, because those boxes, the like pro wrestling crates,
which you can get monthly subscriptions at ProWrestlingCrate.com.
They had them discounted. 3 shirts in a box for $20. That's a really good deal.
I mean, those are $20 shirts,
right? Just all the different merchandise they had was really cool.
As a wrestling fan, it's a mecca. Like it's anybody that's a wrestling fan. And there's guys that are WWF guys that aren't under contract now, like Hulk Hogan, Mick Foley, Stone Cold. All their merchandise is up there.
Yeah.
Their T-shirts.
Could you turn me into a wrestling fan? If you were to say, go to one show, I have a son about to be 14,
Yes.
also has no interest in, has never really been, around wrestling or watch wrestling.
Yes.
If you were to go, hey, pick one calendar event in any place I'd have to go around here to go to be like, this is going to be the one where you go to and you're going to see what we're talking about.
All in, which is this weekend at the Sears Center in Chicago.
Why don't you explain how you were selected to volunteer?
They were looking for volunteers, right? Me and Sren have been trying to get in this gig for a long time. They sold out in a record. It was a half hour. 29 minutes.
So what is it, real quick, first and foremost?
All In is basically it was a pay-per-view, and the story of it is it goes like this, right? Jim Cornette. Do you remember Jim Cornette?
Is it the guy with the cowboy hat?
No, he was a manager, but he had the tennis racket.
No, I don't remember
Okay.
that.
Anyways, so this guy, he's talking. He's a big wrestling guy, personality. He's like, yeah, like what Cody and the Young Bucks and those dudes are doing. Yeah, they're making money. They're doing well for themselves outside of WWE. He's like, but they couldn't pack a fucking 10,000 seat arena.
Mm-hmm.
So these guys took it, and this is the part I love about it, because like trying to do business with people and everything, and for everybody that tells you can't fucking do something, and these guys did it, they were like, fuck that. We're gonna set up a show, a pay-per-view, which they didn't even know was going to be a pay-per-view. It was basically just like at that point a thought of, this is going to be an independent event. We're going to put all these asses in seats. There was no TV deals or nothing, So they booked this show. They get all the top independent stars from Impact Wrestling, Lucha Underground, Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all these top promotions outside NWA, which is owned by Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins. They get all these guys to work together to bring you the best in entertainment of people that aren't signed under contract to WWE that can do whatever they want, which in turn brings you like the best entertainment for your buck.
Sorry to interrupt, but they're so close, this group that's doing All In, that they will never separate.
Yeah. They just said when all their contracts expire, they're going to stick together, and whether it's a dumb idea or not, they all work together.
There's no loyalty in wrestling, so this is refreshing.
I didn't grow up and move into an apartment with my best friend from third grade, so I hope that works out for them. But
yeah, exactly. But I mean, obviously they're talking, it's a different level, like business-wise. They've all made a lot of money together, and they continue to do so with like their YouTube show, which I suggest you check out. It's called Being the Elite. It's fucking amazing. You'll laugh your ass off, dude. And there's continuity in it, and everything leads into like their matches and stuff. But yeah, so what Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks did, it was they booked all these top guys. They're gonna be at the Sears Center.
They'll also be at Pro Wrestling Tees.
And at Pro Wrestling Tees. There's a lot of things going on. And so long story short, I couldn't get in the show, right? It was sold out. I was looking for a way in, as was Sretton until he went to Serbia. So shout out to Sretton. Where the fuck are you?
I miss you.
So I took this opportunity to email back, the guy who was asking on Twitter, like, we're looking for volunteers for StarCast, which is who's putting on the convention side of the All In pay-per-view. It starts on this Thursday, tomorrow, because, obviously this is Wednesday.
Right.
And so it goes from Thursday to Sunday. I sent these guys an email like a few weeks ago. I didn't hear shit back for like 2 weeks, right? I'm at work. I get an email. It's like, you've been selected to volunteer for StarCast. I'm like,
did you come a little?
I came a little. My pants, man, it kind of stuck to my leg. What am I going to say? I was super excited, because not only is this a big opportunity for us, because we've been, as JPDub's been promoting and talking about this event for months. Like, since we've started, this has been the buzz about the whole wrestling fucking industry right now. And so for them to hey, I'm going there and working for free, but
you're going to meet wrestlers, though.
Yeah, and I'm going to be like, hey, here's a sticker. Here's our contact. This is what I like. I'm going to get picture opportunities. I would have paid
to work that.
Well, you think about it, and you think back in history of all these stories you hear about people who made it, got where they wanted to get, and every one of them is like this annoying kid that hung around the gym, or
Paul Heyman.
Kept on calling, kept on sending emails, kept on sending in demo tapes.
Right.
It's not the guy who sat there and waited for someone to hear their podcast, or
you can't.
Saw them perform live live at a 5 audience member comedy show. It's the people who go out of their way to keep themselves in the minds of other people.
You just reminded me. I was thinking about this morning. I wanted to talk about this on the show.
Rocky 5.
Tommy Gunn.
There's a documentary called My Name Is Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
And
He used to do that shit at Madison Square Garden.
yeah, he took
Make
his
up
money
fake
from his
press
bar
passes?
mitzvah and bought a camera and just started going to wrestling events and like snuck in the back room area and was like just hiding in a corner. And Dusty Rhodes was in the room and he's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, I wanted to be a reporter, a photographer." He said, "Well, come on over here. We'll show you how we do it."
The American Dream.
And he just explained it all to him right then. And
Judd Apatow said that if you ever listened all these podcasts he's on, he always talks about back in the day he was like going and interviewing big name comedians.
Yeah.
And you had to put yourself out there. So
You have to. And you got to do it by any means necessary.
because there's a bunch of dudes who are doing it that when you're not doing it, right?
Exactly. And especially nowadays, man. If you sleep on this, it's fucking ridiculous.
Like Instagram's even better than Twitter because I feel like with Instagram,
yeah, I like Instagram.
those
It's
people
more of a
specifically are doing their own. Where Twitter,
Yes.
someone might tweet for you,
Right.
So you have direct contact with the world pretty much.
Well, going back to when I met Velvet Sky.
Yeah, let's do that.
So after
Let's
she
do
signed
her.
the 8x10 and she came over and we took a picture and she gave me a hug.
Did she sign you a noose?
So I had brought along like a luggage, like rolling luggage thing. I always take that to convention so I can put shit in there and not have to carry it.
you could
you
exchange.
buy a
different-
bunch
have her
of shit?
Have her change into different outfits.
Right.
Oh, man.
Why don't you put on this luchador mask and just that?
Luchadorable.
But no, so I go to put the 8x10 in my luggage, and I remembered she had posted on Instagram, like, "Oh, I'll be at Wizard World, blah, 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 bring chocolates."
Oh, she loves Oreos. She loves Oreos.
Well, I'm going to get to that. So so as I'm putting the 8x10 in my luggage, I was like, "Oh, shit, I forgot to give her the chocolates." So I give them to her, and she goes, "You did not." And I was like, "You said bring chocolates." She's like, "Nobody else did." She's like, "That is so sweet." And she came over and gave me a hug again. She's like, "These are my
Motherfucker.
favorites." So and she had already done.
You're suspended
if you go
again.
if you go on YouTube, I got her to give a shout out to the Juice Pro Wrestling Podcast. And she had done that before I even gave her the chocolates. Like, she was cool. When I asked X-Pac to do one, he was like, I don't know if I could. But he does a podcast, so I don't know if...
yeah,
He
and I
does
would
so-
totally, yeah, he's the X-Pac. I forget what his podcast
Yeah, but I don't know
name is.
if whoever his network is through will allow him to promote another podcast.
Back when I found out Michael Rappaport was going to have a podcast, like the week before he was advertising he was going to do one, I was a huge Rappaport fan way back in the day. So I got a hold of him through Twitter or Instagram or something. I was like, "Hey, dude, can you do a bumper for me?" He absolutely. Not only did he do that, I gave him like 20 questions and he answered all of them. He recorded the answers and then sent them to me, and I cut them up and did like a game show on my podcast.
Really?
That's legit.
And I've done that
That's
with
awesome.
several people. And you know what? Why? What is the really?
What's
You
the
can't.
harm?
You can't
Well,
say, "Hey,
I
listen
was-
to the show." It doesn't keep people from listening to your show. So
Yeah.
Well, I was actually thinking about doing that, like setting my phone on record or something while I was talking to them and seeing if we can get audio clips from that. But then I was like, there's probably laws against that.
Yeah, with that,
Like
there
look at
may-
Sean
Illinois,
Stasiak.
yes, not in Indiana.
He got released because he was recording conversations on the road with other wrestlers.
Well, wait. So you?
In Indiana, you only have to have one party consent. So as long as you know you're recording the conversation, you can record it.
Well, he knows.
yeah.
Yeah.
In Illinois, you can't have that. But I will tell you this.
Hogan's glad he wasn't from Indiana then.
I'll bet you that you could probably reach out to her again and get a clean cut of it.
Well, that's
you could
the-
just be like, "Hey, you did this. I'd like to."
Well,
audio
that's the
quality
thing.
better."
I had asked her, I was like, would you, be willing to come on the podcast sometime? And she's like, well, I'll see how my schedule works out. Next time I'm in the area, hit me up on Instagram. So later.
Sure, and people will do that, dude. I talked to Dweezil Zappa through Instagram, and it ended up he dedicated a whole show to my son, and we met him, and it was straight legit through talking to
Yeah.
him on Instagram.
Well, that's the thing, how you brought up Oreos, because then later that night she posted a thing with a package of Oreos, and she was like, "Oreos keep me warm at night." And I just commented back, I was like, "Oh, I figured the chocolates would have." And she was like, "Oh my God, thank you so much. Like, those are so good."
And here's
then-
the thing. Now you're a fan for life because I've had.
Oh, I was before
I tell
that.
everybody this story. When I was growing up, I loved Daryl Strawberry. That was my guy. The
Hey,
85
me too.
Mets.
He liked his meth.
I loved Daryl Strawberry. My grandfather took me to a Cubs game, Cubs Mets, and we got there early to watch him warm up. And I was yelling for him, "Hey, Daryl, Daryl!" And he turned around and gave me the finger, and I was like 9 years old.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
he's an asshole.
yeah,
So-
and well, then I
Never
sent,
meet your heroes, man.
I sent a card and asked him to sign it. And his mom sent me. She was the president of his fan club and said, "Hey, go ahead and send it back with $20, and he'll sign the card." And I was like, I'm a 9-year-old kid. Like, how hard is it? You could have. She could have signed it. I wouldn't have known the
That's some
difference.
straight
Right.
bullshit, But it makes sense now, knowing his drug problem and all
Yeah.
that. That's why he was doing it.
Probably, yeah.
That
I mean-
and he was an asshole,
I mean, but when you have an interaction with that with somebody, it's life changing because you go like, hey, you know what, that person's a real person. And,
right.
But one bad incident could
it can taint
go
you.
the other direction.
I
for
totally
sure.
see what you're going. It's motivating, you know.
Right.
Like we've interacted with all these wrestlers and stuff, and hung out with JR's hung out with many, and we've had quite a few opportunities now together to hang out with some of these guys, and they, for the most part, have been positive.
Yeah,
like with me and
they're
you.
really personable. The biggest jerk was Jericho. Like
Really, the jerk of Jericho.
Yeah, when
His seed.
I saw him in Valpo, and he was walking out after his match, going to his car, and a little kid asked him for a picture or an autograph, and his reply was, "Get out of my face, you snot-nosed punk! I did my job."
See, but I think that's a little.
That's living your
keeps-
character.
Yeah, kayfabe,
Like,
which
come
is
on,
kind of
dude. Like, kayfabe was
I thought he was like
cool.
a super cool guy. No, that his character was not
he was
that?
a total dick.
Really?
No, Jericho. I don't know. I can't hate on him for that because he still kind of keeps kayfabe.
You're just happy because the NWO is reunited on his cruise.
Myself. when
No, they're not.
I took my brother to see that wrestling match, we were walking out, and it was at the I think it's Chicago Stadium, and we saw the Dudley boys getting into their car.
Yes,
And
I love. I want to hear this.
We came around a fence. They were in their own private parking lot, and my brother was like, I didn't know who these
Wait,
people were.
what show was this? WWF.
Yeah, it was a WWF
Okay.
show. So he was getting into a car with the guy that's the
Devon.
Devon. They're both getting into like a small compact car.
Yeah.
And my brother was like, hey, give me your autograph. Give me your autograph. And they're ignoring us, and we're getting closer and closer. And these guys are getting, because, you know, on TV, he looks like a big fat dude. You're like, oh, he's a fat
Bubba
dude.
is
Whatever.
a big fat dude.
He's a monster of a human being. This dude is enormous. So once we got up close enough to him, my brother was like, dude, didn't you hear me? I said, give me your autograph. And the guy was like, I ain't giving you my. He's like, you know
Well,
what, dude?
yeah, with that
You
kind
ran
of,
your mouth to the wrong
Well,
motherfucker.
Yeah, we've been partying before.
Hell yeah.
And my brother's like, he's like, you're an asshole or whatever it was. He's like, dude, I tried to get your autograph. You're being an asshole. And then the dude threw his bag in his car, shut the door, and came around the other side.
This
and
is
then
good.
Devon got in between, and he was like totally ready to kill my brother. As he got closer, the size difference was just insane. And I was like, how are we going to get out of this?
Right,
This is insane.
right.
Because we bought it. We're in. We bought in. My brother's he's still jaw jacking because in his mind, he's like, what's this dude really going to do?
So
Well, no,
he
here's the
got an
thing, though,
argument
too.
with Bubba.
Here's the thing, though,
Yes.
too.
Bubba dates Velvet Sky.
yeah, that's what he was
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
And you were kind of telling me that outside before we came in to record, and I was like, hey, save the juices so they can drip later for
Sure.
all those blessings. Bubba Ray, it really is not, the guy you want to fuck with.
Yeah, we
I was
figured that out
trying
quick.
to tell him about ECW back in the day when they were doing shows. They'd be at a fucking show, whether it's a taping or what. The Dudleys were. That's what I loved about ECW. They would taunt the
their
crowd.
promos were
They'd be like,
insane.
come on, motherfucker. You think you can? Jump that fence, because as soon as you do, I can do anything to you I want legally, and
Well,
I
so
will
this is
fuck you up.
what we're talking about.
I would not fuck with Bully Ray.
When you meet a guy
Shout out
and he's
to
at
Bust
an
Open
event
Radio.
and he's signing an autograph, they have every reason to be kind and nice and take
right.
pictures. They're there for
paying
that.
their contracts.
Now, when
Yeah.
Jericho walks out and he's like, okay, I'm done with my appearance now. I'm on the phone, or I was backstage and
Yeah.
I got an argument. Like, that's his personal life. That's what
Yeah.
these guys were in a locked parking lot that we came around the gate. And I'm thinking now, I'm like, they probably have some bit of expectation of like, hey, we don't know who these people are, what their intentions are. Now, I guarantee he
Right.
wasn't physically in fear, but he was also probably in the mindset of like, now you've trespassed.
You've invaded
And I am
our-
going
yeah.
to be able to do this without any issue from law enforcement or anyone
Yeah.
else.
Right.
And a crowd started gathering around, thank God, because then they were like, okay, it's probably not better if we do this.
Fight.
So they got in their car and they sped off.
See,
while
with
they're still
Jericho,
there.
there was
That's
nothing
awesome.
blocked off or anything. Like, it was at Valparaiso University, so it was just an open parking lot.
That's
Yeah,
just
that
him
would've been
playing a
dangerous.
character,
No, these
I
guys
think he's
were
just
I
playing
playing.
ain't got no sweat for that. I actually, it's
Come on,
cool
he talked
because
shit about Vampiro being in a band and shit, and then he went and got his own band. He's like, you should just focus on wrestling. And then years
Really?
later, there's Jericho with his own band.
yeah, but Jericho's band sucks.
Well, yeah, but still.
Fozzy,
I mean,
they used to be.
Vampiro
Who was it? Who was the old band?
sucked, too. Stuck Mojo.
Stuck Mojo. Remember them guys?
He's in that band?
No, he took that band.
Oh, okay.
He
And
took the
became Fozzy
musicians and
Osbourne.
became the
Oh, okay.
the singer.
Yeah.
I don't like them, but you know what? I'm not gonna knock Jericho because I do like him and I like what he's doing right now, and he's a part of all this shit, dude. He's the guy who's anti WWE. He's the New Japan Intercontinental Champion right now.
Yeah, he's the only wrestler to ever have the New Japan and WWF, WWE.
And what's cool is when he's went to New Japan, He goes over there and he swears now, and he's just like the most ruthless guy you could think of. He's totally not the character you would see in WWE.
He's the real person. Yeah.
That's always cool. Like when you see people get interviewed on like Howard Stern or whatever, and you go, "Oh, well, that guy's no longer. He's able to be himself. He's on the radio," and you're like, "Wow, that guy." I've never heard somebody be interviewed by Howard where I may not have liked them before, but like Jennifer Aniston, who cares? But you always get when you hear these real people being real and they can let their guard down, or he doesn't let them not let their guard down. It's like, wow, I pretty much appreciate that too. When there's a Sibian involved.
Let the man down!
But I just feel like anytime you could see a person be more of themselves, and you just get a lot more out of it.
Right. That's why reality TV.
Everybody's
so
interesting.
Right,
You just got to be able to bring that out of them.
I'm not.
Yeah. JR's not really interesting.
No. I just do interesting things.
Yeah, he's the world's most uninteresting man.
That's my new name.
So, real quick, because we got sidetracked for a while, let's get back into a little bit more of your experience at Wizard World. I can't say it at Wizard World. I can't say it. It's like a tongue twister for me. Because when I was a kid, it used to be Chicago Comic-Con.
Right.
And, and then it became Wizard World.
Yeah.
Wizard Magazine, for those of you that don't know.
Right. But yeah, so then next in line was Billy Gunn.
I'm an ass man!
And I have him sign his 22 karat gold card. And
22 karat ass.
he was like, where'd you get this from? I was like, Danbury Mint. He's like, oh. And I was like, oh, I met X-Pac earlier today. And he's like, X-Pac's here? And I was like, no. He's at Pro Wrestling Tees.
Settle down, Billy.
And he's like, where is that? And I was like, it's 13 miles from here. He
doesn't know?
Yeah. And
oh, he didn't know?
yeah, his ass better call somebody. So I was like, oh, it's 13 miles away. And he's like, oh, really? Because the owner asked me to come down there. And I was like, well, it's 13 miles away, but it takes over an hour. And he goes, fuck that. He goes, I'm not going there.
Yeah.
And then that was pretty much
he's
he's
wrestled
fucking huge.
Yeah, he's still huge, and he's well into his 40s,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah, like he stood up next to me, and I was like, God damn,
He
you're
was
fucking
kicked
huge.
out of WWE a couple of years ago because he was a trainer and shit.
Yeah.
Because he was doing, they didn't know, but he was doing bodybuilding competitions,
Yeah.
and he was taking, they test, So
Right.
he was taking some fucking growth
Even though he
hormones
wasn't
or
wrestling, he
whatever.
was a trainer.
But why? What is the purpose of that? So
What is the purpose of what?
is
Them
the purpose
testing?
of testing for pro wrestling, for entertainment? I mean, it's
Well, that's the whole thing. That's why WWF became sports entertainment. Was because of the steroid scandal.
Yep.
And Vince was like, oh, it's sports entertainment, not actual wrestling.
That's so they didn't have to have. That's like if they go to New York or they go to Vegas, they don't have to be sanctioned by the sports committees because it's entertainment. That's why
Gotcha.
he did that.
so they could use. And
Well,
nobody-
now they do test.
Right.
They do test
Well,
now.
they test because
But
I mean, there's a plethora of reasons. Probably one of the main ones is Chris Benoit. Like
right. Although there were no steroids found in his system.
No,
Yeah, but the fact is, I mean, if you're that much more powerful, maybe you're dropping people on their heads
and that and the concussions.
You maybe not
the
know
Chris
they were so
Nowinski,
hurt.
all that.
Well, yeah, Chris Nowinski, he was known as Harvard Chris in the WWE. My ex-brother-in-law, Ben, his daughter's mom is brothers with Chris Nowinski. And he had
That's
left.
a huge family tree that I just could not follow.
Yeah. Basically, my nephew's uncle
His cousin, his
is
brother.
Chris Nowinski. But anyways, he had left WWF or WWE to go do research on concussions. And they actually used his research for the movie Concussion, the Will Smith movie.
They did the Benoit shit too. I think.
Yeah.
They researched his
but yeah,
brain.
like he had a good career in WWE at the time, and he just decided to step away because he had gone to Harvard, so that's why they called him Harvard Chris. He decided to do research on sports concussions and whatnot. So, but yeah, so after Billy Gunn, next was Christian.
Christian.
I didn't really spark up a conversation.
Captain
with
Charisma
him.
was he? He wasn't.
There was
very
no charisma.
charismatic?
Like.
He looks like a dweeb, man.
Yeah.
They get a podcast, the Edge and Christian podcast,
Yeah, and I bypassed Animal because I already
What?
met him.
Road Warrior?
I met him at Texas Roadhouse.
Man,
before.
but he's the Road Warrior
Well,
animal.
like he was just
hold on.
eating at Texas Roadhouse, or he was there for
No, he
he,
was
he had
there.
done a
Oh,
I seen him in the bathroom take his makeup off though, and I was like, my jaw was dropping. I was like, this is fucking awesome.
Remember when I peed next to Bob Hardcore Holly?
Oh yeah, you were pissing. You were looking at his dick too. I seen him, man.
He
I
was
mean, he was
roids.
meat gazing.
So yeah, I bypassed
Bob Holly
Animal,
got big ass dick.
and I went to the Nasty Boys because I have
Oh, you nasty boy.
I have the 8x10 that I had gotten from Virgil. Remember when he signed it?
Yeah.
So I go up with that and I take the glass off the frame and they're like, this is our Sports Illustrated photo, and I was like, yeah. Where'd you get this? I was like, Virgil. I was like, he He was at like a
Lonely Virgil.
bowling alley. Like he wasn't invited
Inman's.
to the show, but he showed up and set up a booth anyways. And
He
talked
Saw
to
him at Deep River.
Yeah, I was like, and he talked to me for
I think
4
I did.
hours.
He was swimming in the ponds, snagging turtles.
Yeah, so Knobs was off to the side, like talking shit to Animal, because Animal signed too big on the 8x10,
Yeah.
and he's like, Joe, what the fuck? He's like, we don't have any room to sign our names now, and
Yeah, you know, Road Warriors were.
well, then he comes over and he's like, fuck you guys, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, yeah, well, when you take photo ops, they're like, your belt ain't even real. They're like, at least ours is real.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
dude.
And
Hey, I put it on the real spikes, as did you. Remember?
yeah, we were
That's all I fucking need.
LOD 2016 or something. So Sag signed first and then Knobs. But after Sag signed it, he goes, well, is this all you want? And I'm like, yeah. It's
Well, I don't want to buy a. You're the nasty boys.
Yeah.
Come on. What was your move? The pit stop. Although I will admit, as a kid, that was the worst, nastiest move anybody could
because
do.
they just
The
look
big,
nasty.
fat, sweaty dudes.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you know, they weren't wearing right guard. You know?
Right.
They
Well,
weren't
right
getting
guard-
Terry Crews up.
More like some speed stick where that shit was just
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was like, no, that's all I wanted. And he's like, all right. And then Knobs signs it. Same thing. That's all you want? I'm like,
yeah.
yeah.
Only if you want
He's like,
it.
well-
Yes, I really want it.
How about this? We'll sign another 8x10 for you and take a picture with you for another $20.
What the fuck?
I was like,
dude?
all right,
That's
all right, dude.
desperation.
Yeah. Well, but you got to
God
think, though.
damn it.
You got to think. Okay, in the era that they wrestled, they didn't make the millions that people are nowadays. You know, they were a
Yeah,
top
but at
tag
that
team
point, I
back
would
then.
have just been like, let's see what these guys are willing
No.
to do for
No,
that
this
money.
is
You
their money
kiss
now.
him.
They were WWF Tag Team Champions,
Yeah.
and they were on the same bill as Hogan. And you remember Virgil told us, he's like, hey, whenever I was on a bill with Hogan, what'd he say? He was like, I made like 15 grand in
Yeah.
one night.
Yep.
So they
And then he
they
told us how
made
big
money,
Andre's
but
dick was.
yeah,
And then
just,
how big Batista's dick was.
yeah, just like
And then told us
everybody
he could
else.
suck his own dick.
Oh yeah, I'd suck it. I mean, what? God, good God, that was a DDP reference. Good God. But
Hulk Hogan, we're coming for you.
oh, don't do it. What I'm saying is they made the money, but just like a lot of those guys, it probably went
Oh,
up
yeah.
there and a little
Yeah.
a little bit of
Yeah, like Sags was.
RBD
or,
420. I got time to burn.
Sags like had no interest in being there.
Yeah, he probably looked all saggy,
Knobs
living up to
was-
his name.
Knobs
Knobs.
was sweaty as fuck.
Yeah,
He's just
dude. Remember he was WCW hardcore champ? I was like, I
Yeah.
hated that shit. Like,
Well, I told him, I was like, I met you before when you guys were the XWF. It's like, oh shit, that was a long time ago. I was like, yeah, that was like
yeah, that
12
was,
years
that was
ago.
a lot of joints and cokes and hookers and
Yeah.
whatever ago.
Yeah, so and then I had them sign the 8x10 for the
That
Juice
is
Pro
cool.
Wrestling podcast.
You know, which is weird, like that Ric Flair documentary. After he, all the stuff that he had said he'd been through, he's
I
like,
spilled more. He's always say, I spent more money on spilled liquor
Than you made this whole
last year.
I mean, the fact that he was like, I'd do it all again, like
Yeah.
without even though all these mistakes that I made and I wasn't here for my kids.
Although him
but he's like,
saying that-
yeah, you know what, I'd do it all again.
But that's a different level. We're talking about like you're talking about Ric Flair compared to Nasty Boys. Ric Flair, fuck yeah, he would do that all again.
But what I'm saying is the lifestyle these guys were living. Like we could look back and
were
go, "Oh,
rock
these guys are
stars, dude."
pathetic now that they're asking for an extra $20. I don't feel a bit bad for them because the life experience these guys had, like while they were in it, they
Yeah.
weren't feeling bad.
Right.
You know, for sure. Whatever money they had, they were
Oh,
using
no,
to
I
party
don't-
and
I
live
don't-
life up to
Right, to its fullest.
Most of us are boring, mundane. You know, go home, go to work. So
As long as you're not including me in that group. Fuck you, Dave. Hey, my man. Watch out!
But yeah, so that was the extent of
So you-
Wizard World. I mean, then I went and met Rob Liefeld, the creator.
Yeah,
of
let's
Deadpool.
get on that. Rob Liefeld. I'm JPDub. We're a wrestling podcast, but wrestling relates to everything. It relates to
Entertainment.
artwork. It relates to music. It relates to fucking movies. Everything. For me, Rob Liefeld as a kid was like, dude, Youngblood, #1.
Right.
Image Comics when they broke off him and McFarlane, Jim Lee, and all those guys. That was super cool.
And he was 19 at the time.
Yeah,
Like that's insane that you're
Yeah.
working for Marvel at 19.
that's fucking crazy, man.
Yeah.
That you met him. Did he
It's funny
sign shit
because,
for you?
I didn't get an autograph because a photo was $40.
Oh,
So I was
yeah.
like, oh, autograph was 40 and a photo was 40. So I was like, do you have a combo like deal? Because most people do. And they're like, no. I'm like, I'll do the photo, I guess. Because I can always like, you can fucking buy it on.
Damn, Rob, come down on these prices, motherfucker. I'm just praising you, and you're gonna charge my boy an arm and a leg. Fuck that!
But the funny thing is, they even referenced in Deadpool 2 how Rob Liefeld
Yeah.
can't draw feet.
Yep.
And so
I'm not a foot guy either.
well, I go around the table to take the photo with him, and he's wearing flip-flops.
Nice.
And I was like, you can't draw feet, so you think you're going to show your
You
feet
told
off?
him that?
Yeah. Yeah, he just started laughing. He's like, yeah.
He's like, who the fuck are you?
Go back to your shitty Indiana life. But no, he was cool. Met Corey and Topanga from Boy Meets World.
Yeah.
Really nice. Topanga, a lot prettier than the picture that I took with her.
You said that earlier.
Ben Savage was really, really nice.
Was he savage as fuck, or was he
fucking
lit?
Savage.
Was he lit AF, as the kids say?
Yes, he was F.
He looked weird. He looks older now.
Yeah, somebody commented on one of my photos. They said, like, he looks like a wax figure.
He does. Didn't he? Well, didn't they bring back that show, right?
Yeah, it was Girl Meets World.
Girl
it was
Meets
Corey
World.
and
Their
Topanga were
kids.
married and their kid, yeah. But
Yeah. They don't have a story about our kids.
Well, when I was in line
Me and Corey's. Our butt babies.
Well, I was in line to meet Ben Savage, and
He had a separate line.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Each
bogus.
person, well, each
Yeah.
person
You have to
had
wait.
their own line.
I know, but like you have
It's
to
better
wait
than-
in such a long line to meet her. I'd be like, let's just get them both.
No,
out of the way.
there was no
Yeah,
waiting line.
yeah.
No, it was like 4 or 5 people.
Oh, okay.
Well, there was a huge line for Topanga, right? And her
No,
tits.
I was the only one in her line.
The Topanga and her twins, as Jerry the King Lawler would say. Oh my God! Look at those puppies! Puppies! Puppies!
But while I was
Delicious.
standing in line for Ben Savage, I'm looking at his 8
Quit saying Ben Savage.
I'm looking at his 8x10s to choose from for him to sign. And when the time came
There was
up, I
no
was
shower scene one.
I was like, why don't you have any photos from
Boy Meets
Little
World?
Monsters?
Oh yeah.
And he was like, Little Monsters. He's like,
like, 'cause that's my
nobody's
brother,
ever asked
isn't it?
me for a
Are
photo
you
with it.
fucking kidding
I was
me?
like, why not? I was like, that was
Dude,
fucking
Isn't that
awesome.
Fred Savage?
No, Ben Savage and Fred Savage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they
Fred
were
was the
both.
main one, but Ben was the little
Okay.
brother that got
Yeah.
captured and put in
Okay.
a Jack in the Box by Boy. But yeah, no, he's like, nobody's ever asked me for that. I was like, dude, that movie was fucking awesome.
Everybody around here loves it, dude. That's a
Yeah.
classic.
Maurice.
Yeah, yeah.
Howie Mandel.
He never wanted to be touched by
Yeah.
anybody that wasn't wearing a glove. Ow!
Michael could touch him.
Let's talk about that chemical castration. Sounds like a Cannibal Corpse song. Chemical castration.
Or a video game tournament.
Yeah, maybe. Speaking of video game tournaments, for all of you out there in the JP Woo that are listening, I'm wanting to
The
do
JP.
another one. Woo 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 woo. I'm thinking about bringing another tournament back. So let me know what you guys think. I'm thinking for the second time around, we do WCW NWO Revenge.
Yeah.
And the winner gets the big gold belt and a customized Juice Pro Wrestling big gold belt. So if
Now-
you guys are into that, and there's also a few other tournaments that I'm going to work out down the road, but that's what I got going right now.
Now, is the winner of the last tournament going to have to relinquish his title if he doesn't win?
Oh man, I like the continuity. I like that. I do really.
You can't bring
know-
that guy in for the final match.
Oh no, he'll be here. Jason Georgie. Shout out to our
I mean,
first
maybe, but I'm saying
inaugural
maybe
champion.
he should get to sit back. He already gets a like, you know.
He should get a
different
bye.
heat.
He should
Yeah.
get a whole
like, it's
bye.
competing
Yeah.
to
He gets some-
face him.
Title versus title is what. Here's what we'll do.
See,
all
look
right,
at
so
that.
we're gonna put it on. This is coming up. There's not a set date for it, but what we're gonna do is the Juice Pro Wrestling and Green Door Studios, Green Door Bookstore, promoted vintage video game tournament.
Round 2.
Round 2, the revenge. And we're going to be playing on Nintendo 64, WCW versus NWO Revenge, which I know all you wrestling motherfuckers are going to climb out of the woodworks for this. You've been clamoring for it. You've been hitting me up saying, hey, what about Revenge? And I'm like, I'll give it to you. You just got to wait. You got to be patient. Well, here it is. Now I'm giving it to you. This is your opportunity. There will be more details coming up soon. I just decided this shit right now. You guys just got me super hard, super stiff, and I just decided on what I'm going to gift. And I'm going to gift you the big gold belt. And the champion that wins the big gold belt is going to go against the champion of No Mercy. And we're going to have a... here it comes. I'm such a
Winner
fucking
takes
great
all?
promoter. No, we're going to have an undisputed world champion. It's going to be great.
Shit in a hole?
Yeah, we're going to shit in a hole. It's going to be great. It's going to be exciting.
With your back straight.
Yeah. All right, getting back. Recap. We did all the Wizard World
Wizard
shit.
World
That's pretty
has
much, that
completed.
was it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Or that was you in a nutshell. Look, you're in a nutshell. All right, Dave. I want to get to you on some of your wrestling experiences.
I don't have any wrestling experience.
Well,
as far as what,
really,
like what-
no, what you used to watch as a kid.
Womp, womp, womp.
I mean, I watched. As far as before I started talking to you guys, I thought it was all WWF. I didn't even realize there was more than
Oh, yeah.
the organization. So
Well, that's what, you know.
just whatever was spoon fed.
Right.
You know, to
But
me,
back in the day, it was WWF
Yeah,
before the World
I would- yeah, I
Wildlife
guess.
Fund. got up in their ass. You know?
I can remember Big John Studd, Tito Santana.
Big Juice Stud, Chico, as Jesse the Body used to call him, Chico Santana.
Jesse the Body.
Yeah. Fuck
I
yeah.
remember, for whatever reason, we loved Junkyard Dog, but I don't remember seeing him in too much stuff. I was like, he's one of those guys that...
JYD was the shit. Rest in peace, man.
I remember who he is, but I don't remember specifically what he did or like if he had any matches that were, groundbreaking or that were historical or anything like that. Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
Oh, man. Superfly.
What's the adorable Adrian Adonis?
Oh, adorable Adrian Adonis. Nice, dude. Nice. He was like the kind of homoerotic character.
He had the cologne that he sprayed, or perfume that he sprayed in people's face, right?
Rick the Model.
Yeah, Rick the Model
that's who it was.
Martel. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I was talking about Velveteen Dream for a minute.
Yeah.
Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah, the Dragon, dude. If you're an 80s kid and you didn't like Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, you're fucking...
Yeah, it was like...
That's what I'm
Karate
saying.
Guy, yeah.
I'm glad... High five.
By the way,
Yeah.
I actually would like to start on the show announcing like appearances wrestlers are going to be making. I thought about that the other day at the Fanatics Authentic Sports Convention in November at the Downey Stevens Convention Center in Rosemont. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat has just been announced to be there.
Very nice, which ties into what we're talking about.
Precisely.
Yeah.
I like that. Thank you.
Hillbilly Jim.
Oh, don't go messing with the
Hacksaw.
country boy. Oh!
But all those, like I said, all those guys were...
The 80s characters, it always comes back to, like, especially guys in our age group, those characters back then were like, dude, they will forever stand the test of time.
Roddy Piper.
Oh, man, dude. Piper was the shit, dude.
I think
Got that new
every
poster.
single one of those guys, like Honky Tonk, all those
I'm
guys...
just a honky-tonk man.
Let me
I'm
ask you this.
cool. I'm cocky.
Do they
I'm bad.
still do the manager thing? So
Not
like back
really.
then, like Mr. Fuji,
Brock Lesnar's only... Fuji. Oh, Fuji-san.
Mr. Fuji, Captain Lou Albano.
Yeah, dude, Captain Lou Albano, who was Mario. Remember the Super Mario Bros. Theme?
Oh yeah,
the
that's
show?
right. Yeah, he was in that show.
And he testified for the Iron Sheik when he was getting like some battery case. Like they shot some really weird
I
like
fucked
video
them up.
with there was a bunch of like wrestlers that like they're standing there and Iron Sheik's just standing the whole time with his like hands on his hips, and they're like,
When I dip, you dip, we dip.
we know the Iron Sheik and he's a very good person. And
He'll fuck you
wouldn't
till
have
you're
done-"
humble.
Yeah. The whole time he's just standing there. Like it was just very awkward. Like they presented that to a judge.
One of my earliest memories was I remember Saturday mornings. They always had this guy. I was talking to you about it earlier. Barry Horowitz.
Yeah,
I was like, this is the Jewish guy that I get, man. I'm Jewish. This is my guy. No,
All right.
he sucked. Because
Yeah,
would
but
just
he was
come
the
out-
most
You
famous
know who else?
jobber
You know who else
besides
is
the
Jewish?
Booker and Brawler.
Oh,
Paul Heyman.
And so isn't Macho Man?
No, no, he was Italian. Papa.
he?
Yeah, Paul.
Yeah.
He's Italian.
Well, whatever.
You can dream. You can't have them all. All right.
So I remember this guy coming out and he would lose all the time. I
Wait,
didn't know what
he
that
came
meant.
out. What do you mean?
Well, I'm just saying he would come to the ring.
Hey, bud.
Him and then what was
Oh,
the
he
other
didn't
guy I
come
told
in the
you?
ring.
I forgot what his name was. The other
Okay.
guy. So it was Barry Horowitz and
He was the jobber.
Steve
He-
Lombardi.
Yeah, the Brooklyn Brawler.
Brooklyn Brawler.
Brooklyn
yeah.
Brawler,
He's
right.
still with WWF or WWE.
I remember I didn't really get pissed, but I was like, man, I thought you were trying to troll me because you were like, you sent this like, yeah, I don't really know much. I don't even know before like Stone
Right,
Cold or, whenever you said your wrestling knowledge cut off. But then you're like, oh, I like Barry Horowitz and Steve Lombardi. I'm like, the jobbers. And I'm like, this motherfucker's trying
He'd
to
love my dad then. The Job Squad.
No, but, like
Al Snow is his dad. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Who's dad?
Mine.
His
Really?
dad.
Yeah.
Look at him, dude.
Now that you say that, he does look like him. I still don't know if you're messing with me. Or
No,
not.
I'm not fucking with you.
I'll show you.
But I didn't know back then that those guys. I was like, why is this guy? It was like the team that plays the Globetrotters. Like every time
Right.
these guys lose,
Right.
But I didn't even think they really lost in exciting fashion. I was just
No,
like, these
there
guys
were
are just to get their
squash
asses beat.
matches. Yeah.
And then who was the guy that was the poor man's the guy that had the rat? So there was Jake the Snake and Bad
was there
News
a
Brown.
rat guy?
Bad News Brown had a sewer rat.
Oh yeah, Bad News Brown, dude. Bad News Brown was the shit, dude.
But I just remember I was like, okay, so this is the poor man's Jake the Snake that comes out. He's like ghetto five, but he had a sewer rat that he would put a
Bad
bag
News
of
Brown was awesome.
bag
man.
of rat on your head. I think was his.
I mean, but dude, come on. If somebody put a fucking rat on
Oh,
my
no
head,
doubt.
I'm gonna be gunning for
I
their
remember
life.
Probably
seeing
getting
that.
rabies.
in
Yeah, I
Mission,
fucking hate rats.
what's the Chuck Norris movie where he's a POW?
Every movie he was
Where
ever in.
they put the bag of rats on the guy's head. So I was like, okay, well that's where they got.
Guess that's the same one where he shoots the guy in the dick in the office. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't remember. I don't
Sounds
know.
spicy.
With Delta Force or something like
No,
that?
this was
Farce?
it was POW or MIA. It was Missing in Action. That's what it was. Missing in Action.
Okay,
1.
okay. Yeah.
But regardless, so all those guys, like they would trot those guys. I think you just rooted for wrestling. Period. You didn't
Yeah.
know any better. I mean, it was every kid in America liked wrestling. Your bed sheets were wrestling. Every kid was wearing a wrestling
I still
shirt.
have the Hulk Hogan Rock and Wrestling bed sheets.
And he hasn't washed them since he was 8.
There's a lot of cum stains. Cum stains
All
on
over
the
Hogan's
pillow.
I just wonder, like, so when you're saying, and during this era where they start making it more like, racy or whatever, they move away from children. They move away from.
Oh yeah, it was more the college, teenage male. What was the demographic? It was like 18 through 30 something.
So they
like
no
the
longer
college,
cared about
high school guys.
having the kids in anymore.
No, and they straight up did a promotional video where Vince was saying, "Hey," and this was aired on what back in the day, it's still USA Network, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were like, "We're going to be going more raw, more unhinged, more."
But why would you do that?
Because they had to. Because here's what happened. The reason they did that was because WCW was floundering for years, right? They ended up signing Hogan. They ended up signing Macho Man, a couple of other guys, and then along came Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, who at the time were the WWF's biggest talents. And they were leaving WWF, so like Eric Bischoff gets these guys come over. He's like, hey, because he's got Ted Turner's fucking pocketbook. It's like me giving, I got endless amount of money. I don't care what you're doing. I'm gonna be like, hey, you want a guaranteed couple $1 million to come do my podcast? What are you gonna fucking do? You got family, just like these guys. So they fucking do that. But what they did was they took an angle, and Eric Bischoff created the NWO, which became a realistic angle. It seemed like a straight up WWF invasion, which back in the day, people who had watched always like, hey man, what would happen if WCW and WWF like ever did this? Like went head to head, but it would never happen. Well, WCW made it seem like it was happening. They made it seem so real, dude. They like so blurred the fucking lines of kayfabe and all that. It just ignited this fucking thing there where the NWO got so big, and it was more of a reality based wrestling. Like these guys were like straight up, hey, we're taking over, and they were like straight up gangsta doing gangsta ass shit. It was more reality based, more
Well, the fans didn't even know if it was fake.
right.
Because there was the instance where they attacked Rey Mysterio in the back parking
Yeah.
lot and threw him into the trailer or whatever.
Like a
and
dart.
The police got called.
Yeah.
Because
They
the
thought it
people
was
that lived
gang
around
warfare.
there, they thought it was real.
Like I said, and going back to that, and that was something that like they had the edge up on WWF. Because they were still like the super cheesy comic characters and whatever, and this was more real life based shit, like storylines. Like, yeah, they're wrestlers, but hey, they're coming in, they're invading, they're beating the fuck out of these guys like gangbanger style. Like it was cool, and so WWF had to counter that because going back to Eric Bischoff, who does a podcast now, and this is how you can always reference how long WCW beat them in the ratings. His podcast is called 83 Weeks. They whooped the fuck out of the WWF. Like, if it would have gone on any longer, WWF probably would have went out of business. And back in the day, that's what Bischoff and them wanted.
And Bischoff's the one that ended up killing their streak by releasing the results of Raw.
Yeah, Bischoff, and,
After
I'm
that,
not
they
going to
never-
put it
they
all on
never
his
won
shoulders. There was they did a lot of stupid shit.
Yeah.
He was a part of it, I'd hate to put it
They
all on
bringing
him.
David Arquette in to be champion. What the
Booking,
fuck?
yeah, bad booking, just in general. So WWF had to compete. So they're like, hey, well, listen, they're going to do that and be more reality-based. We're going to go the extra step. We're going to be, because at the time, you
Show
think the
titties.
90s, Jerry Springer was really big, all, grunge and like gangster rap, all that shit. They were trying to take that in. Of course, what wrestling does is they amplify everything. And that's what they did.
So where do the kids go during that time? Like they just leave that all
They
behind.
go
so
to
they're-
fucking sleep.
They lose that generation of
They
kids,
do.
but
Yeah,
now,
but it was the people that actually have jobs.
Yeah,
that
that's
are
what they
buying
were
the shit.
aiming
no, I
at.
get it. No, that makes
It was
sense.
appealing to teenagers
Smart
through
marketing.
45
Yeah.
or so years old.
And it worked out because you think, okay, 80s and 90s, they were where they're at now. Like the whole
The ones that grew up
PG.
watching Hogan were the ones that now have jobs
Yes.
and can buy the shit when they're
Right.
selling DX Suck It shirts. And
They weren't one to see the train your prayers, eat your vitamins, which in turn is why Hogan turned heel. The biggest heel turn ever in professional wrestling. And I know Butch Man
Becky
Lee.
Lynch.
No, get out of here. I know you're not a huge Hogan fan, but I mean, can you not deny that Hogan probably played like the best heel and the best face in
How
the
can
business.
you not be a fan of the guy? I mean,
I've met him.
Let's
I just
put his wrestling
don't
aside.
care for him
If
as
that-
a wrestling character.
He doesn't like his character.
I get it, but I'm just
To me,
like
it was just he had the same match every time.
I get it, but outside of that, for what if you
What he
talk
did
about
for the
wrestling,
business, I
obviously there's
respect
Ric
it.
Flair and there's Hogan, right?
I have a picture with the both of them
So-
at the same time.
For just you love it so much, you'd be like, this is the most important
Yeah.
person
No, I
in the
respect what he
entire
did for the
lexicon of
business.
wrestling.
That's like meeting Babe Ruth.
Right.
It is, though. I mean, he's not going to deny that. He's not stupid. He looks stupid,
No,
but he's not stupid.
I'll be taking back all those gifts. I just
No, never return those blessings.
No, I totally respect what he's done for the business. I mean, fuck, pro wrestling probably wouldn't still be around had he
Right.
not, had Hulkamania. But
mean,
as
that-
far as a wrestler, I don't respect him. I mean, John Cena, I don't like him as a wrestler, but as a person,
Yeah.
Oh, dude's
he's probably the
awesome.
nicest
I'm like,
guy I've
yeah.
ever met.
You've met John Cena?
No, but I just everything I've seen that the guy does, like he just seems
Well,
like he's so involved.
He's done the most
in-
Make a Wish Foundation, like.
Would you?
business
I would.
ever.
I would. Dare I
He's the
say? And
most
you know, I'm a
requested.
huge Hogan mark, but dare I say that John Cena in this generation, this era, is more of a Hulk Hogan than Hulk Hogan was back in the day.
Maybe in terms as
You know, as,
it's
as
now
far
more
as the good
acceptable
guy
to
thing,
have wrestlers in movies and shit. So he's done more.
he got
probably
better roles.
financially.
Definitely done better stuff.
And that's the
Yeah,
thing
I mean,
with Hogan.
yeah, Mr.
No.
Nanny and was
Everybody
Santa with
shit-
muscles or something.
Everybody shits on Hogan for his movie roles, but here's the thing,
Thunder
and
in
like you're
Paradise?
saying,
That's
they
the
weren't
image they wanted him to
offering.
have, though.
Yeah, they weren't offering him good ass movie roles.
Right.
And listen, everybody just because who says he's a good actor?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like even if they
Right.
would have offered him something great, it's like I don't know how great of an actor he is.
Hey, I'll give it to him. I liked him in Suburban Commando because he was
Yeah.
supposed to play like a dumb guy, like
Yeah.
he's in another planet, like
I think given the right script, he
Undertaker
could've-
I mean, he was
and
great in Rocky.
Yeah,
and
we're a
Rome-
dead man,
Well,
Ramsey.
it was Undertaker and what was it? Glory from Power and Glory, Paul Roma.
Oh yeah, Paul
he,
Roma.
he was in Suburban Commando as well.
Oh yeah.
Don't forget he was in Rocky 3, Hogan.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah,
Thunder
Thunder
Lips.
Lips,
That's
yeah.
what kick-started wrestlers in movies.
Yeah.
Was that. So therein again, he's the Babe Ruth, man. Whether you like him or hate him, and I know he got in that whole racial bullshit debacle. We've talked about that. We've covered that.
Yeah,
I'm
he
not
got
going
like
to go into that.
$130 million from that too. So
Yeah, you know, there was a whole little fucking dispute. Like I said, I don't want to go over that. At the end of the day, he's a human being. He's done wrong. He's done right. But he is who he is. And like his tattoo on his forearm says, I am that I am. You know, it's a biblical fucking
He has a
statement.
I thought
Tattoo?
it said I am
He's
overrated.
got a couple.
Really?
Jesus Christ, both you guys.
Well, I just feel like he shouldn't because I like that guy to be. He's Hulk
I don't.
Hogan.
I
He don't get a tattoo.
High five again because I agree.
Well, that's like-
I don't
well,
like Hogan with
I
the
brought
tattoo.
this up
Yeah.
on the last episode I was
He's got
on.
immortal on his back shoulder blades.
Another thing I hate is the Undertaker now has Instagram.
yeah, that's
See,
Like,
you-
that's the end of your
there-
career.
That's what I'm saying. There's
Like,
there's
just
that
call
wall
it
that you
quits.
build, and you build this character.
Kayfabe.
Yeah, and you
and
go.
he's the one guy that has always been able to retain, even though now we're in the era where everybody knows wrestling's, you know,
Staged.
scripted, staged. It's a performance, right?
Oh yeah, they're still
But he
terrific athletes.
was still that one character that you never heard much from him. That was
Right.
cool. There was still this aura,
You got to
this
blame Michelle
mystery.
McCool for that.
And you don't have to make up a story for that.
Yeah.
You don't have to say, "Oh, well, this guy's some dead zombie dude." No, you just know you want to know more because he's not very active, you know, on what he does, and you don't know much about his
Well,
personal
something
life.
I didn't know about him until recently was that when he was Mean Mark Callis, he was managed.
He
by
likes
Paul
My
Heyman.
Bloody Valentine
Well,
with
no,
Joe Riley.
He likes Post
Next.
Malone. Like he was at a Post Malone concert.
Yeah, what
But no,
the fuck is that?
But no, that he was managed by Paul Heyman back in WCW.
yeah, Mean Mark.
Well, it's I mean they get to be human too, but you don't want to see that side of him, and it's like something that you
Oh,
hold
yeah.
dear to you, and you're like, well, isn't he like the mayor now or the?
No, that's Kane.
Okay, another
Mayor
guy
of
though.
Knox
Isn't
County.
he also
Yep.
was like had that same sort of?
Well, it's funny
character,
when
did
he
he not?
when he won mayor, they played his entrance theme
Well, that's awesome.
as he walked up to do his speech. So that was really cool. But yeah, you have a lot of people that made their careers with World Wrestling Entertainment, whatever you want to call it now, but branching off. JBL, he's like a Fox stock analyst and stuff now.
Well, Jesse the Body.
Well, yeah, he became governor of Minnesota.
Well, not only did he become governor, but he became like such a polarizing person too, because it's before you're like, oh, it was the guy that was in Predator, and he's like a big macho dude who was a Navy SEAL, and then all of a sudden this other stuff happens where he supposedly gets into it with what's the SEAL Chris
Oh, that they made the movie out of?
Yeah, where he supposedly he punched him out or whatever. But this guy comes up with his politics, and you're like, well, wait a second.
Excuse me, did somebody talk about me on the podcast?
This is
Jesse Ventura.
He's a wrestler.
Like Sean Connery.
Now all of a sudden he's a governor, and now all of a sudden he's like a very polarizing governor. So
the American Sniper. That's who we had beef
just
with.
like your mother, Trebek.
Well, I guess that guy had talked shit about Jesse in there, or there was some kind of whatever information. Jesse's like, no, this didn't happen, and he sued because of it, because it was like defamation of character. It's like, and I can't really argue with that, you know. Here's my thing. Jesse served his fucking country, dude. He was a Navy SEAL. It's not,
that's like
you know, you're in law enforcement. You know, and that's you're a Marine, you're a SEAL, you're a bad motherfucker, dude.
Right. Army Ranger, yeah.
And then he got into acting and professional wrestling, whatever. He made his mark. He became a governor, and I don't think he didn't do bad, dude. Minnesota didn't do bad under Jesse Ventura.
Right, he's just
I don't know that anything
changed,
good or bad. Everything was at least his level as far as we know. Nothing major happened. While he was
there was nothing.
But then he came out with his TV series like Jesse Ventura Conspiracy Theories.
Establish a perimeter.
Yeah, and then he just kind of came off as
Where's Sret when you need him? He doesn't mean Jesse Ventura.
He doesn't.
You heard that one, right?
The Andre.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Wait. That wasn't really Andre?
I heard Andre, I said.
No, yeah. Andres came on before.
That's what I was going to say.
I don't have the Ouija board here with me today, so we can't channel him.
He's here right now. He's just not saying anything.
Ouija, are you with me? Mama, mama, mama. Well, shout out to Musically Meditated. Butch Man Lee with this Ramon shirt on. I'm digging it. Kind of pissed that he didn't buy me one.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it would have been like $30-$35, and I saw it was only $20.
What's like their general pricing at Pro Wrestling
like
Tees?
Really fair price. I mean, like these figures here.
Are they really flare priced? Woo!
No, the figures, these are exclusive
Dude,
to
those
Pro
are
Wrestling Tees.
The crates. They have Young Bucks and Kenny Omega ones.
Yeah, they had ones of each guy that they have. They had Joey Ryan.
Oh, they have a Joey Ryan, the King of Dong style. How big was his dick on it?
They're only $13.
Why?
What?
I didn't expect penis size.
So for people who like wrestling so much, how come did you ever consider wrestling yourself?
You know what? Here's the thing. I did wrestle for 3 years, amateur in school, only because I was
amateur in school? Like you wrestled like Greco-Roman wrestling?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I only did it because I was a pro wrestling fan. You know, and
he wanted to feel the budge on his butt.
No, I didn't. I did that. We talked about that episode or two ago. I was like, I did not like how my tiny baby bulge looked in the singlet, and I felt really gay. And I lost a lot of matches. I started actually with a local hero, Alex Ramos from Hober, who ended up going undefeated in high school. This guy, you know, he didn't know shit. We started off together, and he would just throw me around the basement, dude. And I was like, all right.
But you never considered like going into
pro wrestling?
Looking into pro wrestling?
Not in the wrestling aspect, no. And I still would love to go like run the ropes in the fucking ring or do some. My back's a little fucked up from all the years I spent with Decrypt doing flips for all you grind fiends that didn't appreciate it and catch me and let me fucking damage my spine. So thank you very much for that. You can still download our albums on Bandcamp.
Well, so these smaller outfits that are doing wrestling, they just do in-house, or you could watch it on TV.
No, you
or
can
online?
watch. There's a lot of TV, and
so there's announcers, correct?
Yes. Well, then that's my thing. I've always wanted to be involved in wrestling in some way, shape, or form, and I really like to be almost a behind-the-scenes guy because I feel like I got a good knack for knowing what people want and
that hot Renee
how
chick?
to utilize. Oh yeah, Renee Young.
Like you'd be doing that? Like
I would be doing that.
Not Renee. I mean interviewing.
Oh yeah. I'd be doing Dean Ambrose. I mean, what? No, yeah, but not even something like that. I mean, I could do that. I don't want to be that Johnny backstage, but when I'm talking like more of a creative standpoint, you know, where, hey, I got a crop of talent I'm going to work with, and I know what people want from them and how to get these guys over, you know, essentially. I would like to do something like that. I mean, really in any capacity, if say, Impact Wrestling or WWE or any of these guys were to come at me and be like, hey, because there are, for example, who was the guy on WWE Network? He's the bald dude, and he does a lot of the pre-shows now for the pay-per-views.
No idea.
God damn, I think it's Ryan or whatever. But anyway, he did a podcast.
Know the hot chicks like Caleb Braxton and.
Well, he did a podcast. Well, Sam Roberts is another perfect example. The Sam Roberts podcast. He's just Jewish. A wrestling podcaster, and dude, he's like WWE pre-shows before their pay-per-views. He's up there with like Booker T and Renee Young, and they're and Jerry the King, and they're talking about the matches. Would I like to do something like that? Yes. I would kind of like to be more behind the scenes because I just want to give
a writer.
I want to give fans what they want, like what I want as a professional wrestling fan. It may not be what you want or what he wants, but I think I have a pretty good idea of what the general populace, the wrestling fan, would like from the company that they're watching, and the talent that they have.
So basically, he would like to run a show 3 hours every week of just classic Hogan matches or the same match over and over.
You're damn right. No.
Do you think you'd say that to his face? Honestly. If you got him on the podcast,
yeah, what's he gonna do?
I'm not gonna say he's gonna physically assault
I would have you here, and we would let him physically assault this motherfucker.
I'd love for him.
We would handcuff him.
I would just be interested. I would be interested.
I'm getting that 130.
No, he would be in a mask.
I'm just interested.
He'd be Mr. America.
What would it be like to talk to a guy and say like, "Hey, as a fan, I just wasn't that. I didn't think what you did was that great, and maybe there's a reason."
I like. You know what? I like that. JR, let me ask you this. Because you're a huge mark with all these wrestlers. Have you ever met a wrestler that you didn't necessarily want to meet?
Virgil?
Yeah, but we didn't. I was there with that, and I know we didn't like. We didn't say like,
"He just
hey,
showed up." Like,
yeah, like you weren't. You've never really like
Sabu
told
and
anybody
Steiner.
like it was though, right? Like, hey, I don't really like you.
No, because I'm not really gonna try and meet somebody I don't like.
But you met Virgil.
Yeah, because he showed up at the bowling alley.
He did. Didn't the guy say he's like, I didn't even.
Yeah,
was it
he
Jeremy
wasn't even
Siebel?
invited. Like he has like a history of doing that, just showing up to conventions and setting up a booth.
But instead of having a podcast where you were interviewing your favorite wrestler, wouldn't it be interesting to have one where you were like challenging as a fan, saying like, I appreciate what you did for the sport, but here are some of the issues I have with with what you did or with what was going on at the time. I'd love to hear that, put them on their heels.
That's called a shoot.
Yeah, all they're gonna say is, "How much money do you have?"
Again, but you had to figure out a way to do it, and not such a challenge, like a put them in such a defensive way. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't be insulting,
right?
But I would, because everybody has their story, and I think at some level, if you figure out a way to bring that out, they would be like, "Well, this is what you don't know," because what you think you know is not really what you know.
Kind of like the real world.
Yeah,
you think you know, but you don't really know.
That was like, wasn't that like Driven? Something on VH1.
What? Driven.
Internal
Bleeding. Driven to Conquer.
Yeah.
No, I know what you're talking about. There was a show where it was like,
it was like you think you know, but you have no idea. This is the story of.
That's real world.
No,
that was the real world.
No, it wasn't. It was like Driven.
No,
he's talking. There was one where there was a specific story about how people talk about the real world is where all those people live together in a.
Yeah, you think you know, but you don't really know. This is the story of 6 strangers living in a house together.
Regardless,
you just totally blended two shows.
Elise knows. She got my back, and I got hers.
You're blending 2 different intros.
You know what?
You just.
I'm like a pack of Doral, baby. I'm splendidly blended. Yeah, but no, I mean it's a shoot interview is what you're talking about essentially, and I would like for someone to come on here and kind of bring some stories and shit out of them like that.
I would love for a guy to come in and be like, "This is what I don't like about fans. This is what always irritated me about
what's that."
That's that's what the name of the show was.
Oh, was it Diary? Oh, Diary. I'm a professional wrestler.
Yes.
Diary. I'm homosexual.
Right.
Diary. I'm going to become a man, even though I'm a woman, and vice versa.
Yes.
What the fuck happened to MTV? And now you got Too Stupid to Die on. Yeah. Shout out to those guys though, because they're cool. They're cool. Jackass 2.0. They're cool. Check them out.
Those guys got another show?
No,
well, actually, no.
Too Stupid to Die. It's a bunch of kids from Hobart.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Yeah,
you don't know about this?
It's gonna be on MTV.
Yeah. Well, it's already aired the first episode, right? Come here. Get in the mic. Who are these kids? You give a little insight.
Oh, I know like 2 of them. Megan Wentz, Cody. I know Zach.
All right, that's enough. We don't need to talk anymore about that. This is a pro wrestling podcast. We just like to shout out, hey, I'm the fucking heel. Anyways, you guys are doing your thing.
I feel like you should come in with face paint.
I should.
You should have your own signature face paint to podcast.
JR's an artist too. We gotta design some shit. He's a hell of an artist.
LOD 2016.
No, there ain't no LOD. It's gonna be JOD. Juice of Doom. I like that. Doom juice.
Doom juice. There you go. You could package your own your drinks now too.
I'd like to sell my package. Wait, what?
You could have your own signature.
I know. I could just like take these
Juice
water
juice.
bottles, wrap a fucking bullshit label around them. It's like JPDub water. Yeah, it's got all kinds of bullshit. It's like a placebo water.
Right.
We'll make lots of money.
Just call it
If
placebo
you
water.
could pick any of the costumes that any of these guys have ever had, which would you choose?
That's a good question.
The gobbledygooker.
Who's got the best character of all time?
Gobbledygooker.
Ooh, wow. I mean, you would have to. That's a tough question because, like, what standpoint, like, what
I
point
don't
of
know.
view
It's
are
up
you
to
coming
you.
at me?
Vader.
If you were to-
talking
if you could-
entrance
if you
attire
could
or
have-
actual attire, because if it's just entrance attire, Vader.
Vader's very great. Vader and the Road Warriors, dude.
Who's got got the
Finn
best
Balor.
entry song?
Best entrance song? Oh, fuck, man.
Shinsuke.
No, Shinsuke. Nakamura. I mean, if you want to go old school, you got to go
Undertaker.
Hogan. Even though it's not Hogan's original theme, that was meant for the real
If
Americans.
you're going
Barry
old
Windham,
school, you got to go with
Mike
Undertaker.
Rotunda. No, the Death March? No,
Yeah.
no.
Bong. You hear that? Bong.
I'll put. All right, you
Ultimate
want me to get
Warrior's
real?
music is-
Nuts.
Ultimate. No, you were very right. Ultimate Warrior's theme music fucking made me want to fuck.
Because you just
somebody
like
up,
look
and it
around and be like,
still
"Where's he
does.
gonna come from?"
Yeah, and then
Where's
he
he
wanted to take a nap. He wanted to take a nap after his entrance because
Yeah.
he's fucking blown up.
But another one, and this is, to kind of give away a little bit of our secret sauce here on the JP Dub, the first 30
Budweiser.
seconds of Bad Street Atlanta GA, the Fabulous fucking Freebirds, dude. That, to me, I have a DVD on the making of that song. That was the first wrestling entrance theme song that was introduced. And
Yeah.
that's...
Michael P.S. Hayes.
Yeah, and dude, man, he come out doing that strut and shit, just like all cocky, and he's all hairy, look like Joe's dad back in the day. Dude, like, shout out to Big Joe Riley,
With his
man.
Bleach blonde.
Oh, that bleach
Farrah
blonde.
Fawcett hairdo.
Yeah, dude, I fucking love that. Hey, have you heard that song?
I don't know.
I'm gonna have to. I got it on 7-inch vinyl. I'm gonna have to
So
fucking.
it's the
send
opening
it
of the
to you.
podcast.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. That.
Mm-hmm. I've heard it on yours, but that's the first time I've heard it.
I'm gonna have
What
to
year?
give you
What,
the song.
what era
Oh
is that?
man, that was
70s.
no, it was 80s still.
It was 80s?
Yeah.
I figured it would have been like 78.
No, I want to say
Whenever
maybe
Leonard
mid
Skinner was in their
80s, like
prime.
84, 85, maybe a little bit later than that. I can't remember the exact year, but that to me is like my favorite wrestling theme song because like it gets me super fucking pumped, man. That's why like I had to choose. I originally Brad Vanderzee. I hit him up and I was like, hey man, I need 30 seconds. I want just a balls out brutal. Like, hey, it's Juice Pro Wrestling. You don't have to just use that,
Right.
and go give me a good fucking intro. And he's super fucking busy with the Prick and Dirty Dead and all that shit. So, he's kind of,
No, Freebird started in 79.
yeah, but Bad Street Atlanta GA, Google that.
Oh,
when did that
the
song come on? Actually, give it to you. I'll cover you for a little bit.
That's his way
That
of
song
telling
to
me
me
to shut
just
up.
it gets me so fucking pumped, man. And it reminds me of like for some reason I really have a love and appreciation for the old school dirty fucking South like wrestling, you know? I don't know why because I didn't watch too much of it as a kid, but I used to have like all these old school PWI magazines from like the late 70s and like anywhere in the 80s. I had all this shit. So I'd learn about these guys, and then watching like early WCW where some of those guys were still kind of like maybe at the tail end of their career and getting in, and I'd find out about these dudes. And then now where you got like shit like the WWE Network and you can go and relive and watch all that shit. It's only $9.99 a month.
I always liked Demolition's theme song.
Yeah. Dun, 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 dun. Here comes the actor. Here comes the smasher. Walking disaster. The demolition.
You ever perform that live?
I probably should. Dun, 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 dun. Lord. Fuck yeah. You get
Recut
me
it.
fucking pump right. I'm going to fuck shit up. Dave, I love you, man. You get me fucking psyched, man. That and the
I
fuck
guess
you
I
put
know
on the Warrior theme
just
music.
enough about wrestling to
Yeah. That's what it's about, though. When it gives you that type of shit, and that's how I am as a fan. I'll put it this way. I'm probably the unfortunate nerd that never stopped watching. Now, maybe, like Jared was talking about earlier, with WWE, when they bought everybody out, there were a lot of years that were so fucking piss poor bad. But I still somewhat stuck with it. Maybe I'd watch like clips on YouTube, which I still do with a lot of their product nowadays. But I just, dude, it's just in me. I don't know what it is. I love that brand of entertainment, professional wrestling.
Well, according to Wikipedia, in 1985,
85. That's what I thought.
that was composed by Jimmy Hart and Jim Johnston. So Jimmy Hart actually helped produce that.
Whoa. Wait, Bad Street, USA? No way.
Yep.
That Wikipedia people changed that shit. That's not true. I have the DVD with the original writer. That's not true. They did, when the Freebirds came to WWF, there was a Freebird song. It's like, Freebirds running wild and free, but you're never gonna put a set of chains on me.
Do you remember that Land of a Thousand Dances record that came out with all the wrestlers singing different songs?
I do.
So I referenced that in the beginning. I didn't know if you picked that up, but I remember like Captain Lou, and Cyndi Lauper, and like all these different artists.
That's the wrestling album.
Yeah.
We both had that on vinyl.
Yeah, I'd have it on vinyl too. Some of my mom.
The original. I have that and Pile Driver. I actually got the Record Store Day release a couple of years ago. One came out in a clear red, and then Pile Driver came out in a yellow clear vinyl.
That's cool.
And then shout out to, once again, the Tom Lounge's Record Bin, which you can check out downtown Hobart on Main Street. Down on Main Street. JR actually, during... I love it. Shout out to Tom Lounge's. Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. I can't do a Dr. Nick from The Simpsons. Can you do it?
No.
I wish I could.
Did you know that Michael Hayes
Hey, everybody.
was trained by Afa Anoa'i?
Yeah. That's, you know who that is, right?
Yeah, that's The Rock's uncle, isn't it?
You know, yeah, but you know who that is?
It's all very incestuous.
You know who that is?
That's the head shrinker. One of the head
Whose
shrinkers.
dad that is? We all love to
Rikishi's?
hand him. No, wait, it's Afa or Sika, because there's both of them. One of those guys is Roman's dad.
Reigns' yeah.
It's Roman's dad. And who was the guy who died from 3 count, remember?
Rosie.
Yeah, it wasn't 3 count, but it was, what did they call him?
The
3-minute
warning, yeah.
Yeah, Rosie was his brother. He just passed away. What was it this year?
And then Umaga died too.
Yeah.
That was a couple years ago though. No, Rosie
No,
died
that was
last
a
year.
long time. Umaga's been gone for a long time.
Well, Rosie died last year.
You know, sometimes we'd like to keep it morbid on the JP Dub. There is a huge fucking catacomb list of professional wrestlers that have died, you know?
And it's usually because I've thought of them.
Yeah, this
That's right.
guy's a
I
fucking
am the
death
Grim
dealer.
Reaper of wrestling.
Once there was a website dedicated where you can go and see
To me?
all of them that are dead and know all that.
Oh, no, but
it's
all
a
of them
huge...
yeah, all of them are adult.
No, when I think of wrestlers, they die.
Oh well.
It happened.
Yeah. He said, oh, well, fuck you, Dave. Here I am trying to plug you, and you're like, fuck these guys, they're dead. No, it's all good. Real quick, in closing, just to kind of recap what's going on to end this week. Everybody needs to tune in and check out the All In pay-per-view. If you guys are going to be out at the StarCast event, it starts Thursday. Check it out. Everybody and their mother is going to be there. You guys know, if you're following the show and you're following all that good shit, you know what up.
This is the start of a revolution.
It is. It really is. And you guys can purchase the All In pay-per-view, which airs on, is it Sunday or Saturday? I think it's a Saturday. Which
Yeah,
is
it's
cool.
gonna be
That's
on,
got like that
WGN
UFC.
America and also the Fight app.
Yeah, the Fight app. You can download it through Ring of Honor's Honor Club.
And that's FITE.
Correct. You can also get it through, I think, pretty much any pay-per-view provider.
Right.
WGN America is going to be airing the first hour for free, which is really cool.
Yeah.
There's
not going to be a bad match on the card.
No, the card is stacked. You guys can check it out. If you follow them on Twitter, look up All In, look up StarCast 18. You know who they just announced that's going to be a StarCast? I'm super pumped about it. I know you get a fucking major stiffy.
Rebel?
No, not. She got a sweet ass, but no.
She got it.
Scarlet. Scarlet Bordeaux.
She still works at the liquor box in
Oh,
Chicago.
yeah. We're going to have to go there sometime. JP Dub.
You didn't get kicked
Dave,
out.
you gonna come on to the liquor box with
He's
us?
gonna come
He
out
may
and
never
arrest
come
us.
back. He's like, what you did in there was inappropriate. I'm like, I know. But yeah, they just announced her. She's gonna be appearing.
Well, Jim Ross just announced that he canceled his appearance.
That's
Wait,
the guy with the cowboy hat.
Yeah, barbecue sauce, pinata. That's so
Such an
wrong.
asshole.
I love Jim Ross. So he is the voice. When you think modern, at least modern day, when you think of the classic wrestling. Before we end here real quick, I'd like to get in this discussion. The more modern day, for kids that may be a little younger than us and us, the classic wrestling commentary tandem was Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler.
Oh, yeah.
Was it
definitely,
not?
Yeah.
For you, who
it
was
started
it?
to suck when Michael
Mean
Cole came in.
Gene.
Mean Gene Okerlund?
And then,
Yeah, but he wasn't really
I think
commentating.
Bobby
was
the
the
Brain
interview.
Heenan at the time, and then Gorilla Monsoon.
Bobby
Bobby
and
was
Gorilla.
with Vince.
Vince,
He
too,
was with
yeah.
Vince,
Well, he was
right.
with Vince, but I think honestly the best out of any of them
Bobby
was
and Gorilla?
Bobby and Gorilla, hands
Oh, yeah.
down.
Yeah.
Hands down. And, R.I.P. to both those guys. And unfortunately, Bobby just passed away. What was it this year?
Last year.
Was it last year?
Well, what about Tony Schiavone and Larry Zbyszko.
They were good too. I like him.
that was a
WCW,
good
dude. And
tandem.
Tony Schiavone was also in WWF.
Right. Yeah.
Tony Schiavone, he's got a podcast going. You guys can Google that and check him out. I loved him. I loved his voice. I loved everything he did. He was the guy that had when you were talking earlier about how Bischoff gave away the results,
Right,
And they were talking about Mick Foley. He was the guy who was like, "Oh yeah, and if you want to tune in over on what the other guys are
he's
doing,
the one that announced
Mick Foley, we got word Mick Foley just won their world title. Huh? Yeah, I bet you that'll put butts in seats." And
that started
everybody
the whole
turned
turn.
over,
Yeah.
and it's like, what the fuck, you know?
Because Foley, like The Rock, was like the people's champ. Like
he was.
Everybody loved him.
And that's like you
See,
were
I didn't
saying
get it.
earlier.
I didn't get it because I remember around that time when my brother was into wrestling, I was like, "Who? This guy's a sock for a hand." It's just,
Yeah.
I just didn't understand. Like, that's where they lost me because I was like, "You got
believe-
Stone Cold, who's super cool. You got
Right.
The Rock, who's super cool, and then you got this other guy that looks like he's wearing diapers."
Hey,
His-
now,
well, I'm just
You're
saying.
talking about my favorite growing up.
I'm just saying the guy what he had going on was not
more
that
than
cool.
probably any wrestler that ever made
Oh,
mainstream.
he did the-
Now I'm not discrediting, the Japanese death matches and whatnot, which Foley also did. But as far as being in a mainstream spotlight, he put his body on the line.
Everything
more
the
than
guy
anybody.
did was super
More than
cool
Jeff
except for the
Hardy.
sock on his hand. I just don't get it. I'm like,
Yeah.
why didn't somebody go
That was
like,
probably Vince's idea.
it's not
Yeah.
that part.
what'd be funny? Draw a face on your sock and put it in
Yeah.
your crotch, and then put it on your hand and put it in somebody's mouth. That's really funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't like it? You're fine.
You're fine. Kiss my ass. Vince made a lot of people kiss his ass.
Which, when you think about it, really, how big are his fucking balls? They're like, hey,
Have you seen how big Vince is? And he's like 70-something
Well,
years
but I'm
old, and
just
he's
saying, though,
still
to
fucking. He
tell
just had a
somebody-
birthday a couple days ago.
Yeah, yeah. But to tell somebody, hey, we're going on national TV right now. I'm dropping my pants and underwear, and you're gonna kiss my ass.
And
on
I'm
TV.
wearing a thong.
Yeah. Like, how big are your fucking balls?
That's what they
You're
did.
telling a
and
grown
here's-
ass man, you're gonna go on TV and kiss my ass.
And did
Literally.
it happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
like
Shawn
every
Michaels.
week.
So
Shawn
that's what-
Michaels was one of them too.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy.
William Regal.
Yeah. There was quite a few guys
Yeah.
that were in the Kiss My Ass club.
Didn't he like put Trish Stratus in the club too? Or-
No, the
He just
thing
made
with
out
Trish
with her.
Stratus was, okay, the storyline they were playing at the time, this is how raunchy and stupid the Attitude Era could be at times. So they did this storyline where his actual real life wife, Linda
Yeah.
McMahon, who is the head of a small business for Trump's cabinet.
council,
Yeah, whatever you want to call it. Fuck the politics. Leave that to the Gigi Stalin boys. Anyways, she was a vegetable, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, Vince was just kind of like on screen, like doing whatever he wanted. He had Trish Stratus, who was super hot,
Still,
know
she's
Trish
even hotter
Stratus.
now than she was
Oh
then.
yeah, dude, she's gorgeous. And by the way, she's gonna be headlining that Women's Evolution pay-per-view that
Yeah,
they're doing.
she's facing
Alexa Bliss.
Alexa Bliss, yeah.
who I
She-
call the modern day Trish Stratus because she
she'll
really
also-
reminds me of her.
Well, she'll also be with Team Bestie, her and Lita, at the Days of the Dead convention in Schaumburg in November. So keep a lookout for that. Tickets are around $35 a piece, so they're not bad. They're not Wizard World prices.
A lot of blessings going on. Anyways,
Thick.
so what they were doing with that storyline was like, Vince had Trish as his servant or assistant
Yeah,
or something.
yeah.
But then he was like putting her in like
Sex
bra and
slave.
panty matches and it's funny because his wife's just sitting there in a wheelchair, like looking all old, not
Yeah.
attractive whatsoever. No disrespect.
And then he
but
like makes out with Trish
and
Stratus
he's
in
making,
front of her.
yeah, right in front of her. It's like he's writing this shit, like, oh yeah,
You know what? The
feeding his ego. You
The
know,
Me Too people are coming for him one day.
I hope so. I really do.
There's
Like,
no
you know
way.
what? Thank you for all the entertainment all the years, Vince, but you need to fucking go by the wayside. You need to go, man. Let
see,
Trips
it's-
take over.
I feel like when I first was introduced to wrestling, he was like a normal sized dude, and then all of a sudden
'cause
he
he
got like
was.
freakishly crazy.
Dude, he's huge. For 70-something years old, he could still be on the cover
but
of
he
Muscle
wasn't always
Fitness.
that big, correct?
He was on the cover
He was a
not too long
normal,
ago.
Yeah,
average.
a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
When he was announcer, he was an average sized dude.
Well, yeah, but then he started doing roids with Hogan.
I get that, but I'm saying like I
What just Hogan? Come on.
I remember
but
leaving
they were
wrestling
on
like,
the trial. Hogan testified against him, so
and then him coming back, me coming back and watching wrestling and going like, this dude's a monster.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah, no, he's fucking jacked.
But as you were talking about earlier, Dave, like something that would get you excited, at least like entertainment wise, like to kill
your
some
pants.
time, that would be wrestling related, that would get you into something now. Check out Being the Elite. It's a YouTube series by the Young Bucks and what they call the Bullet Club, which is a group of guys who are basically like the modern day kind of New World Order. They do what they want. but super fucking entertaining. And they incorporate all these guys from different promotions, and they just put them. They write really cool scripts, like promos, not even promos. I want to say like storylines for their show, and it ties in somehow it ties in their wrestling matches, and it's like so. Like when they had Joey Ryan,
Right.
and he fucking made
Stephen Amell and the ghost
yeah,
of
Joey Ryan made fucking who was it, Hangman Page drink his piss or whatever. And there's just ridiculous shit, that's like it's entertaining. It's fun that, for guys our age or anybody,
While you're discussing the Young Bucks, you want to plug Papa Buck?
Oh yeah. By the way, which I want to let you guys know, the Young Bucks you can go out. It's Meat Sauce Media has a vinyl, 7-inch vinyl out right now, multicolored vinyl. You can get in like pink, swirl.
Very cool artwork.
Yeah. It's the Young Bucks' new theme song, Super Kick Party, their 2018 theme song. And on the back, it's got a couple tracks from Matthew Massey, a.k.a. Papa Buck, who's good friends of the show. He's got, I believe, what is it? All In is one of the tracks. The Super Kick Party and Being the Elite themes from the show. You can pick this up at meatsaucemedia.com. It's very super limited edition. They also have a gold edition bundle that comes with like a super shiny gold cover and a gold record 7-inch, and I think like a big ass bumper sticker and a t-shirt and all kinds of stuff.
And if you're not aware who Papa Buck is, it's the Young Bucks' dad, and he makes all the theme music for the tag team Young Bucks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's really cool. It's like old school, like 80s, like like that montage music.
You're the best.
Like it's super awesome, dude. Like Warriors Cry.
It's got
and
that
stuff.
80s cheese.
Yeah, it's awesome, and he's a super positive dude. He really is. He's a God-fearing man.
And he's personable.
Yeah, he's very dude. I communicate with him all the time on Twitter, and he's a very awesome guy. He's also going to be at the Starcast.
Yeah, he's doing like a meet and greet.
Yeah, and you can jam with him. There's a thing where you can pay, and you can they'll film videos and record you jamming with Papa Buck.
Really?
So it's
really
pretty cool. Yeah.
Starcast is also having a lot of like eat and greets, and
there's all kinds of shit. You guys,
people.
I don't have enough time to tell you guys what is really going on with this. You guys will have to go to Starcast 18.
Hopefully, it becomes a yearly event in Chicago.
Well, they're
Since it's
talking
Ring of
about
Honor
doing
type
it.
Thing, they're based out of Chicago.
They're talking about doing it, but I don't think it'll be just in Chicago type thing. I think
they'll do
Chicago
LA
was
next.
the perfect place to start it. Because Chicago, I don't give a fuck about anywhere else, and people can talk about New York and Beantown, all that shit. Chicago, you're a sports fan, right?
Sure.
Somewhat.
Yeah.
Chicago has some of the best fucking sports fans in the world.
Besides Pittsburgh.
Whether it's like I mean, look at we're Bears fans and we still go to games. When the Cubs were losing, I'm not a Cubs fan by any fucking means. I'm a White Sox guy. But when they were losing for over a fucking century,
they
were still selling out.
Yeah.
You're going to tell me that Chicago doesn't have some of the best sports fans ever. And the best way I think really that represents that is when you go to a professional wrestling match that's in Chicago, like a mainstream deal, you will feel it, dude. You will feel that fucking energy. And I'm not talking like a Raw or something. Like get something that's more like AAW, which is based out of like Berwyn, Illinois.
Right.
They get all these big talents, like something like that, or a pay-per-view.
Freelance wrestling out of Chicago, dude, they have like some top-notch matches as well, and they just wrestle in like bars and stuff, and it's
like Shotgun Saturday Night.
Right, exactly. It reminds me exactly of that, and it's just nostalgic.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, that's really cool. Well, before we close out here, Dave, I want to give you the platform to kind of plug the Hey My Man podcast, which I'm a huge fan of.
I do a podcast, been doing a podcast since like 2010.
He's the
on and
OG.
off. And we do it out of like the Tri-Town area, Cherville, Dyer, Highland, that all the way on that other side of the county.
Lake County.
And it is myself and my podcast partner, Ben. And we do a podcast that it's basically just like a biography of what happens in our life during that week, the week before, whatever. We sometimes get into a consistency of doing it every week, and other times, like right now, we've been down for like 4 weeks, 5 weeks.
Well, you guys you have jobs,
Yeah, well, that's not. I mean, that's part of it, but the other part of it is there's a lot of times where we've recorded, and I'm just like, I wasn't feeling it. And I'll put out. I'm real big on my producing and editing, so like I'll put out only the what I consider is like good stuff.
Right.
So It seems non-structured, but it's actually pretty structured, and
I like that. That's kind of the vibe I got from you guys. Like you got like this old kind of punk vibe going with it. You know, I mean, it like you just said, it seems structured, but I mean, at the same time, to me, it didn't. You guys were kind of like everywhere.
Well, what's funny is I have a. We've gone from everything from a draw race board where we have topics and these are the things we want to talk about to, and we've done everything. But where we're at right now is I don't talk to Ben during the week. He doesn't talk to me. We sit down, we turn the mics on, and we just, I'm like, Dave, don't tell me anything about what you got going on. And we just let it fly. And he's real good at just hopping in and doing it. I went to a very small amount of formal radio school, as did he. And so this is like our passion, being able to not do yoga or I don't have time to do any of this other stuff, so this is my therapy. As it is for probably you guys. I get to come in here, and most of my stuff is based on me complaining about my wife and my kids and just being a miserable human being and complain. It's almost like I consider like a Curb Your Enthusiasm. That is like how I live my life every day, and I carry around notebooks and my phone, and I'm constantly writing little notes about what irritated me here and what irritated me there, and so that's pretty much the long and short of it. We don't talk about politics, we don't talk about sports, we don't talk about pop culture. Everybody's already doing it. I'm like, what? We don't have any hot takes. What can we say about stuff that everyone else is saying? So I just talk about my own life experience, and I find that a lot of people like to bitch and complain like me. And about the same shit I like to bitch and complain about. And they shoot me messages all the time like, man, I have the same, I complain about my name. If I've met you, guarantee I'm talking about you. I'll talk about this experience. I'll talk about what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it.
You better not say anything you didn't like about this show.
I guess you'll find out. You have to tune in.
I have to come in with I will tune in with the big leg drop.
You mentioned how it's like kind of, like a therapy for us. I don't know if you're aware, but I was suspended for 15 weeks.
He was taking peds.
Yeah, podcast enhancing drugs.
Okay.
Yeah, and I made my comeback 2 weeks.
Well, here's the thing. As you see, like
he's a reformed man.
Yeah.
I will only drink water when I came on and did Joe's podcast. I only drink water because even one beer get me off down a whole other path.
Well, as you can see, the juice, he's drank how many beers?
Some people can do it.
As me and Joe would say, we don't keep count.
I cannot. So, I would appreciate, like I said, I'm hoping that my people will come and listen to what you guys got going on. Like I said,
and vice versa.
I'm not the biggest wrestling person. Maybe there's a way I can get back in and be interested in it. But
watch All In this weekend.
There's so much more to your podcast and everybody's podcast. Like I said, just sitting here and hearing you guys talk about not necessarily what's going on in the wrestling world, but how passionate you are about wrestling and talking intelligently about it and knowing like your shit. So that to me is interesting because I'm like, wow, these guys really care about wrestling. Well, that's interesting.
Me and this guy, we've been talking wrestling for 20 years now.
Since our dicks were small, and now they're super big.
Maybe yours is.
But what I'm saying is like as you start talking about it, it's like no one's needing to correct anybody for the most part or say no, that's not right. But there is some fact checking because it's like I want to be right. So hey, look this up while I'm talking about that. So I appreciate that.
We pretty much like studied it though. Like even with like the wrestling video games, we would stay up seriously for like 13 hours straight playing the game.
That shows.
Like we lived together a couple times, and that's what we would do. We'd sit there and play Nintendo 64 wrestling.
It was good times. I miss those days back when
we could
get
to have those days back.
When we can get RVD 420 and just play.
Just waiting for Johnny B. Where the fuck's Johnny B supposed to smoke with me?
And just play these games, and the camaraderie, the having fun. Like I said, there's wrestling for us is a platform that brought us together, and it's one of the platforms, and it's just
the Crow was actually the first platform, but that's for a future episode.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to come in here and always just be on a podcast, so that's always fun.
Yeah.
And
so where can people find you at?
Pretty much anywhere you could find podcasts except for SoundCloud. So
I don't really like the SoundCloud thing either. To me, that seems like a little and no knock to anybody because you got to do what you got to do, but it seems a little how would you say that? I don't want to say unprofessional because I don't seem like that fucking dweeb, but that's a little like high school,
Yeah, I don't know. I know that people are inherently lazy. So for me, it's hard enough getting people to figure out how to listen to a podcast. So I know, like, if your podcast is on iTunes or it's on Stitcher, you could take those things and stick them right on a Facebook.
Yeah.
You know, so we
can get you on those.
Yeah, our Hey My Man Twitter account. I have an Instagram account which is at Hey My Man Podcast, and you could find it, like I said, on Stitcher, on Podbean, on Podkicker,
Google Podcast,
yeah, Google Podcast, and what's the music one? Spotify. So
You're on Spotify. Nice.
On Spotify, YouTube. So we're all over the place. If you put the Hey My Man Podcast or Hey My Man Podcast, you're bound to find us.
When were you established?
Huh?
When were you established?
He said
like 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that.
I think we only have 187 episodes, but we had a bunch more. We had like 20 more in the beginning that I got rid of when we restarted, and we sort of found what we wanted to do and figured out our way. So
now you said you've been down for about a month. Now before that, did you have a regular schedule, like a certain drop date?
We used to always do, I think, Mondays. So we would podcast on Sunday, and I'd have it turned around by Monday night.
Right.
Nice.
But just because we have different schedules, it started to float. And then we were like, there's always this argument that people want consistency. And then, as a podcast listener, I always want to know that I'm going to have that but I listen to so many different ones. I'm just like, hey, I'm appreciative whenever one comes out.
Yeah, that's how you have the argument with General Stretton.
Well, I was going to say...
he's been making me going hard in the paint for 4 months now.
I think he's right. People want what they want when they want it, and they want to be used to it. But
they do, as long as the content's good. Because I'm the guy that's like, if you have someone like... for example, there's a guy named Nicotine. He's a YouTuber. He used to do like a lot of like wrestling video game reviews and like, like old school Nitro and WWF entrance attire and reviews, and he would come out with shit all the time. I would very much look fucking forward to every week like a video of him coming out, to the point where I was one of those guys like looking like, man, where the fuck
sending
is
him
this
a
shit?
message like, dude, what's up?
Yeah, and but he's a guy just like me and you who has fucking a life, family, whatever, going on, and you can't do that all the time. So
right.
But I don't think that hinders necessarily anything that anybody's trying to do.
Well, I can't necessarily podcast without Ben, because the Hey My Man podcast is me and Ben.
Right.
And so what I'm going to eventually do, because we have these different schedules, he's also in a band, so he's doing other stuff too.
What band is he in?
He's in a band called One Timer.
Okay.
So he's currently not in the band. He just left the band to create some more time but
more timer?
Yes. But with that being said, I'd like to do an additional podcast where I can be free to have other people jump in and podcast with me, because I don't like having all that time between podcasts.
Yeah.
Well, before I turned to podcast enhancing drugs, that was one of the issues, because when this podcast was in the embryonic stage, it was recording on different days, every time, and it just, with having my son and whatnot, like I have to have a set, knowing like, okay, this day I have to set time for it.
But sometimes, you know what? For me, sometimes you don't have it. Like there's times where we know we're going to podcast on a Sunday to turn it around on a Monday, and then you get ready to podcast, and it's like, man, I got in a fight with my wife.
Yeah,
or I'm just
life
not
happens,
feeling it.
man.
Yeah.
Just like shit, life happens, bro.
We used to say, oh, it's a comedy podcast, but I just say it's like a lifestyle podcast, because there's sometimes
it's
I
like
go on
Seinfeld.
There.
It's a show about
for
nothing.
Sure. I go on
shout
there.
out to Chromatic Distortion. My boy Corey Caesar, who's just started a fucking podcast, and he's actually gaining ground. And he markets his show as like a Seinfeld it's a podcast about nothing, which is cool. I think a lot of people will relate to that, because it opens the door to anything.
I think you just got to be real. And I noticed a lot of people would like get a hold of me and say, hey, I really liked it when you were, it wasn't the funniest thing in the world, but you were complaining about something, or you started talking about something that I could relate to.
Yeah, the end all be all is you got someone's fucking attention, and they invested in it.
Well, podcasts are the new reality TV.
Here's the thing. I always say, I'm going to put this, I've never said this on air before, I'm going to fucking do it now. I've told Joe and from Musically Meditate, and he can attest to this many a times. I've always looked at like the Green Door and everything, like what we're doing now is like a South Park episode, like where all these dudes doing different podcasts, like, oh, fucking God, who's got the better podcast?
Right.
I can imagine South Park at some point doing an episode.
Rid of the train lady.
And I imagine like Randy doing a fucking podcast or something. You're like, oh, there goes. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a total South Park thing.
Yeah.
It's going to be like these podcast wars and shit.
Yeah, it's just like a patchwork of different
Patchwork fuck fast.
I think the key is without keep doing your podcast, but also the cross promotion and getting yourself out there. And you maybe stuck talking mostly about wrestling because that's what your theme is, but being able to go on other podcasts and then, talk about some other things that you're interested in.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. Well, thanks, Dave.
But yeah, those who haven't seen yet, if you go on YouTube under the Juice Pro Wrestling Podcast
Or if you
channel,
go to jpdub.com, it'll take you directly there.
Yes. You can see the promo that Velvet Sky shot for the podcast.
Because she loves JPDub,
That's right. It's evident in the video.
I mean, she was in the tag team, The Beautiful People. She likes beautiful people. I like to consider myself beautiful. Butch Man Lee, much the same.
You're beautiful.
Dave's a very beautiful, handsome man.
It's true.
Anyways, yeah, that was fucking great. The Velvet Sky.
Yeah.
The first one to really endorse and promote the JPDub. And we've had much love for Velvet Sky for a long time.
As is every man who's ever laid eyes upon.
Yeah, and Bully Ray is getting it. Hey, shout out to Bully Ray at Busted Open Radio. He does a podcast with, I don't remember the other guy's name. It's like Dave something.
If it ain't Devon, we don't give up.
Yeah, if it ain't Devon, if he ain't getting the fucking tables, we don't care.
At least give us some Spike.
Yeah, Elise.
I would love to find out.
Dick Dudley.
He tells a story about my brother on his podcast at some point in time.
Oh, that would be the shit.
Dude,
I love that story, dude. I'm so glad that you told that.
Does Joel Gertner have a podcast? That would probably be amazing.
He does. I think he does.
His promos were just fucking raunchy.
Yeah, he was great, and he was really good with words.
Yeah.
He was really great.
Yeah.
So one more thing I like to do before we kind of enclose the capsule of time on this episode. I'll give a shout out to all of my Twitter followers at JPDub Podcast on Twitter. They hit me up over the weekend. There was quite an influx of people that hit me up and followed us. And
on the JP woo woo.
Yeah. And very much appreciative. What I am planning on doing on future episodes is I want to do a segment that's like a shout out to everybody that has followed us on Twitter and kind of like promoting what their handle is and, giving some love back to them. So we can just, spread our legs and spread the love. What'd you just throw me? What is this?
One of those phone backer things.
Oh, it is. I saw one that was like
medieval times.
I saw one of these, but it was a dick. It was a big dildo.
Well, I'm sure you just got disappointed to find out it was a dildo.
And this would be something the Godfather would be passing out. Get about that. Oh, train. Anyways, this is Big Juice Stud. You can find us on Twitter at JPDub Podcast. You can check out all our episodes visually, but not so much, at jpdub.com. You can also check us out on any fucking major podcasting platform. That's iTunes, that's Stitcher, that's what else, Dave? What else? All right, Dave, thank you very much, you fucking slacker. We're on every major podcast. No, you can follow us, Juice Pro Wrestling. We're on Instagram at Juice Pro Wrestling. We're on Facebook at Juice Pro Wrestling. We also have the JP Woo group. And what's the JP Woo, you might ask? Well, once again, I might tell you it's that Juice Pro Wrestling universe. You can hit us up once you go to fucking Facebook and hit up the Juice Pro Wrestling podcast, because we from the Midwest. We like to get down on a few cobs of corn.
Yeah, shuck 'em.
God damn, yeah!
Aw, shucky ducky.
Anyways, hit up the JP Woo, Juice Pro Wrestling Universe. It's the group we got on Facebook. Interact. Fucking tell us what you like, what you don't like. And you can also call in and leave messages for the show. It's at 1-872-267-4199. What is that again? It's 1-872-267-4199. Good Lord, that's a lot of money. Good Lord, that's a lot of blessings. Call us. Leave a message. If you don't like me yelling so much, you know what? Fuck you. But that's what I do. Hey, this is Big Juice Stud. For Butch Man Lee, for Dave Karsky, we're going to leave you on this. White I'm up. White I'm up. White I'm up. Yeah! You gonna do sex to me?